Hello, everybody. My name is Steve, and it's Friday, so we're here for the Friday conversation with some friends to have a fun chat. So, Beth, do you want to start us off with introductions?
Hi, I'm Beth Tabler from Before We Go blog and Grimdark magazine. Very happy to be here. Mihir?
Ooh, okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Mihir W. I'm a member of Fantasy Book Critic. Thoroughly excited to be here with these lovely authors and two of my lovely friends, Steve and Beth. I'll pass it on to Krystle.
Hi, my name is Krystle Matar. I wrote a Spitball finalist from last year called Legacy of the Brightwash, which is currently being billed as cozy romantic grimdark, which I think pretty well.
It's hilarious.
Kind of eclectic, but also very dark. And I'll pass it on to Justin.
I'm Justin T. Call. I'm an author. I write the Silent God series, which is part of a larger super series I'm calling The Lore of Luquatra. First two books are already out, Master of Sorrows and Master Artificer. A big,
gorgeous colors.
It's dark epic fantasy that's crossover between like epic fantasy, grimdark, YA, adults, like edgy, dark, sort of Brandon Sanderson level stuff.
Nice. Yeah. So it's Justin, it's your first time hanging out with us, so hopefully we don't scare you away too fast. Anyway.
And vice versa.
Yeah, true. That's fair, yeah. So we were just talking before. So Beth, what are you drinking tonight? Because we were going to say this for the stream.
I am drinking milk-washed rum. So I can't really do anything that's not totally completely complicated. There's a recipe from the 1700s that pirates used to make. So they take rum and they mix it with milk and pineapple juice and whatever flavors you want to put into it, and an acid, and it curdles, which is gross. And then they filter out all of the curdles, and the curdles take all of the impurities out of the rum. And so it makes it super smooth. Yeah, really, really smooth.
Oh, that's cool.
And yeah, it takes all the bite, but all the alcohol's still there. Yeah, so milk washed rum. Which is
so did you make that yourself or did you
Justin's
buy it?
brain.
Did I make that myself? Yeah.
What is it that takes the impurities out?
So the curds you filter through the.
You don't
because the curd. No. No, the curds. So the curds are floating. The curds are all
as one
floating,
does when one is a curd.
As one does when one is a curd. And you filter it through cheesecloth or a coffee filter or something, and then the curds grab a hold of stuff as the alcohol goes through. It makes a super smooth drink.
Also, the pirates are smart. By adding pineapple, they're adding with vitamin C, so less scurvy, which was the rage for the pirates as well. So
that's very true.
You got to hand it to them.
Most of the rum recipes are scurvy related, like grog with the lemon juice. And
scurvy.
I'm gonna have to write that down, the milk wash rum, though, because the next project I'm working on has privateers in it, and I feel like it needs to come up. So that'll be my little tip of the hat to you.
I've made so far the milk wash rum, and I've made a gin drink. I've done a filtered gin. Also really, really good. It's just really good. Yeah.
You sound like a fun person to drink with.
I just like to fancify stuff.
Sounds pretty fancy.
Yeah.
So,
Justin, what about you? What are you drinking?
Yeah. What am I drinking
Krystle.
tonight?
Justin.
Well, actually, you're not going to go ahead.
I have a single malt Irish whiskey, and it's called Sexton. I don't know if you can pick up.
Oh, it's so pretty!
Isn't that awesome?
It's so pretty,
and it's got like this skeleton horse on the side. Oh, upside down.
Ooh.
There we go. Skeleton horse on the side.
That's bottle
this
porn.
was a bottle that my husband just Yeah, he just saw it in the store and he's like, I don't know what that tastes like, but I'm buying that. And it turns out it tastes nice, which is a bonus. But I'll be keeping that as photo props for books later once it's empty.
Nice.
Nice. What about you, Justin?
Oh man, I've got some splash flavored water from Nestle. Delicious.
Nice.
It's like non-carbonated juice soda that, you know, it's basically water, but it's delicious. I really do like it. And I have to keep me awake, I have Bang energy drink, my favorite flavor, strawberry delish. It's because man, I am tired all the time, so you know, gotta keep awake. I don't drink alcohol either, so these are my fun drinks.
Nice.
But I do really appreciate the vessels that contain alcohol, as well as like cigar boxes and other stuff.
Yeah.
I love that stuff.
They smell really well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to acquire them without actually purchasing the things that they're supposed to contain.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, every now and then I have a friend that gives me a box or a velvet bag or something, and I'm like,
so that's what we know. Now we know what to get
Just
for
cheap
gifts.
gift for
We buy
gifts and
ourselves a
gifts.
really cool
Yeah, exactly. Give him
I
your
could just
trash.
send you
bottle of
bottles.
alcohol, drink it.
Yep. Send in the empty
Send me
bottle.
a cool box. Don't send me a weird. Just don't send me like a regular
No, of course.
See, I don't
My
even know
second batch
alcohol
is sextant. That'll go to you.
I have a bottle of aviation gin that's almost gone. This is the cool aviation. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? The aviation.
Which Hollywood superstar owns that? I know it's one of them. Because I've heard of it.
Deadpool.
Oh, Ryan Reynolds.
The hotness.
Oh,
yeah.
Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
Canadian, you.
Yeah.
He also owns my phone company.
He does.
Oh yeah, Mint Mobile, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, let me just side note. I have a great recipe for Bang with Bang. You mix rum chata and blueberry Bang, and you get blueberry cheesecake.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. sounds pretty good.
Oh, Lana.
You had me a cheesecake.
Rum chata or lung chata?
Rum
Yeah,
chata. The alcohol, rum chata.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and then you mix it with
Well,
blueberry
it doesn't
Bang.
help.
You just drink the blueberry Bangs. It's good.
Get another alcoholic drink. I shall have some experience. That's it.
Good evening, Chris. Let us know what beer you're drinking tonight. Lana's coffee ready. Kids sitting down with oats. I'm ready to go.
Hi, Lana.
So, Justin, this was all a big ploy to hassle you about book 3.
Oh, yes. People were teasing me about that. Well, Beth was teasing me about that.
I was teasing you about that. Yes, I wait with bated breath here. Clear my schedule for a week.
Yeah, so I'm still working on it. It's been because I should have been done with it last year. I should have been done with it.
Oh no. That hurts.
I know it does hurt. It hurts a lot, and so I've had a lot of different things that have been going on that have made it difficult. Obviously, COVID hit everybody differently and affected people in different ways. And some people, like Brandon Sanderson, were able to produce multiple books because they have a wife who takes care of their kids and don't have to stay home with their kids and don't have to share an office with their spouse and get a lot of private time to write. I don't know. He's got a lot of benefits that we don't as regular, common authors, I guess.
Perks.
But
we
even
plug
saying
in.
Right.
most people though, are producing stuff I think faster than I am. I tend to overthink and overanalyze a lot of things, and with my series getting farther along, I want to hit everything on the right notes, on the right beats. And because I'm contracted to finish this part of the series, because it's a super series, this part of the series in 4 books, I didn't want to finish book 4 or 3 and then still have 2 or 3 more books to write. So I consciously paused and revised and pulled things back and reassessed. And as I was doing that, of course, COVID was happening and we were moving and there was like forest fires and all this other crazy stuff.
Oh, the forest fires are bad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bad.
I also had a novelette that I wrote for Grimdark magazine.
Yes.
So I took a little bit of time off for that, which I think, according to Adrian's last update, that's coming out in The King Must Fall at the end of this year.
I have seen it.
Yeah.
It is very sweet.
Yeah.
It is very
I have
sweet.
the digital version
Yeah.
already because we backed the campaign. But so there's a lot of stuff going on. Also, this year's been hard. I thought I would get caught up and turn it in already, but I'm getting divorced and I moved out of the city I was in. So there's been a lot of crazy stuff going on that have delayed that. So I don't say that as an excuse. I say that as more of a way of explanation because the book's coming out, the cover's finished. We actually have covers for both book 3 and 4. And book 3 is going to be really great. I'm really excited to share it with people. It's just, putting in the time.
It is better. It's better to take the time and make sure it's right rather than rush it out and then end up tying yourself into something that you can't. So I'm with you. I think you did the right thing, and I'll protect you from the rabbit.
Thank you, Krystle. Because I feel like a lot of other authors don't invest quite so much of themselves into the series. I know authors do, but a lot of authors, when I talk to them, they're like, I was so relieved to stop having to write this series after 3 or 4 books so that I could be free to write a new world or experience a new plot, or not be tied down to like having to remember all the minutia of all the things you created. And I'm like the exact opposite. Like I've got so much in the tank and I've been working on it for so long. I'm like having to space it out and like piece it out very slowly to people so they don't get overwhelmed. And I want to like thrive in this series for a long time. So I don't want to turn out a book that trips me up and forces me to have to retcon something or screws up the whole rest of the series that I've developed. So I'm taking that time to make sure it's done right. Having said that, I'm excited about where things are going. There's some cool stuff with ogres that's in book 3, and we get to see a lot more of my main character, who is a hero progressing towards a Dark Lord status. And he's book 3. He's at that point in the character arc. He's a Dark Lord, becoming Dark Lord, etc. So
I think the most important question regarding the series is it still a bicycle on fire, like rolling down a hill?
That was a lady.
That was a lady. Yeah.
Who said that? Yes.
Yes.
I have loved the descriptions of people, especially the early authors, the early bloggers, etc., giving commentary on. Book 1 did this, but book 2,
just
what am I going to have
let
to?
it all hang
turn
out.
the whole world down for book 3 in order to please people. So that'll be fun. But if we're not riding a bicycle at this point, we're riding something else that's on fire. I'll tell you that.
Maybe it's a unicycle now. You've got even less stability.
Pieces are flying off of it,
More likely, it's a tank that's blowing through the forest, going.
Oh
no! Yeah.
And Krystle, you just finished your second book, right?
Yeah, that's right. I'm everything that Justin said. I'm in the same boat. Minus the ogres. Yeah, it's like this world. This world is the first time that I felt like I was writing something that fit me fully, where other stuff that's never seen the light of day, I felt like I was always just picking little pieces of myself. But now, finally, I've figured out a way to bring it all together and live in writing that is as multifaceted as I wanted it to be. So I'm in no hurry to get anywhere. I want to stay here for a while. And it's the same thing. Like, I know where I'm trying to get to, and then there's all the things that I'm tied to because I said that's what happens in the first book. So I had to like take a minute and really sit and figure this out so that I didn't write myself into a corner that I couldn't get out of, because it's the same thing. I want to live here for a while. But I finally did it. It nearly killed me. It took 2 years. And I sent it to Michael Fletcher on Sunday. And he's already made quite a dent in it. So I'm taking that as a good sign. I'm hoping that means all that work was paying off now. Michael is fantastic. He's great. He likes to pretend that he's grumpy and reclusive and stuff, but he has to be the most enthusiastically supportive person I've known among a crowd of incredibly enthusiastically supportive people, you know. So yeah, I'm looking forward to
That's
I'm
awesome.
looking forward to seeing what
He
he
stopped
says.
reading the SPFPO books, because of your book, Krystle. You send him
Did he?
that, and you're supposed to finish the semifinalist, and you're supposed to read something else. And he's like, he just showed us a picture of Legacy of Brick and Bone, and then
Well, that's a high compliment.
I'm like, that's
I
fair.
didn't know that.
If I was in your place, I would have done the same thing. I'm like, that's absolutely fair.
Yeah, it's a long competition. There's time,
Yeah.
priorities.
Well, I haven't read the series, but from everything I've heard from everyone and every interaction I've had with you on Twitter, I think it's all well deserved. It seems like you are a very capable writer. I'm looking forward to reading the series when I get it into my TBR queue up to the point where I can read it.
That's relatable. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm really bad at taking compliments, so I don't know what to say other than thank you. Yeah.
I'll keep complimenting you if it makes you this awkward.
Oh, no.
Put me in a position of power.
Yeah.
And Hannah Blackwell's here. She says, "Hi guys, Master of Sorrows is on my shelf, staring at me to read it."
Yeah.
Good.
The mighty TBR
Do
pile.
it.
Yes, indeed. And Michael is hilarious. He's also one of the nicest people you'll meet.
Yes.
He is one of the nicest,
He
kindest
really
people
is,
you meet.
yeah.
He writes some seriously dark stuff too. It's really great.
He's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful grimdark.
It was the completion jokes on Twitter once you were done for me.
This is an inside joke. I'm not familiar with the joke.
I think so, yeah.
So, I guess on Sunday or Monday I posted that I finished Brick and Bone and I was very excited, and someone asked me, did I dance around or listed a bunch of possibilities of how I might have celebrated, and I said, I think I told a bunch of jokes to my husband about how it was the best finish I've had in a long time.
Dude, it's 2 years.
2 years.
It's a lot of build-up.
I mean, that's fair.
And Lana caught me and is now reminding me that I said that on a public. So yeah.
How long is your series?
Thanks, Lana. I think this arc is going to be 5 books, but
It's a super series like mine because you say arc.
yeah, 'cause
Arc.
the whole
Multiples.
this whole thing, it started out, I wrote like a first draft, but it's more like an outline, just how loose it is and how unfinished it is. And it was 270,000 words.
As an outline.
Well, I call it an outline, but like it was a draft. There were scenes written, but they were really bad. And then like halfway through, I would think, oh, such and such person needed to die like 10,000 words ago. So I would just keep going as if that had happened. Like it was a really bad first draft. And it was 270,000 words. And this was supposed to be the first book that started, all of the stuff. And so I was like, well, that's obviously too long for one book. So I'm like, I'll cut pieces off it. Maybe I'll cut it in half or something. And so I cut off a chunk that's however many thousand words. The first one is now 220,000 words. the second one that I sent to poor Mr. Fletcher is 370,000 words. I'm hoping to get that down, but he's asked for more details. So if it ends up longer, we're going to write letters to him. And so this is still supposed to be that first arc that gets things started. So it's like, I don't know. Either I'll do like a 2 small series or 1 big series. It all just depends on how the beats fall. Although I noticed from just Ben Galley's experience, he had trouble with that because it seemed like he thought he was writing a new entry point into his series, but he kind of got blasted for it. So it's hard to see. It's hard to know.
Oh, the Emanaska book, right?
Yeah.
Last year's finals.
Yeah, his Spiffbo finalist.
Yeah, it was.
And I mean, it made it as a finalist. So, but
It was a good book.
Yeah. But some people felt like they lacked enough
background
context. So I just wonder if it's better just to write it as 1 longer series. But I don't know. I'm going to do the second book and then we'll see.
Interesting.
Justin, just as a quick aside, because Krystle mentioned her word counts, you showed us those big chunky books. What are the word counts on each of them? I'm curious about this.
This one's 180,000. That's book 1. And then they changed they must have changed the spacing or formatting for book 2, just because this one is like 280,000, 275,000.
Oh,
which, Krystle was saying that was her outline for a book.
Outline, yeah.
I don't believe that. That's not an outline. That's an outline for a series, maybe, but not for one.
Yeah, that's my point.
To be fair, I mean, when you're a lot of times, no one sits you down as an author and is like, so
yeah,
here's how long your book should be in words before you start writing, and this is how many words are going to fit on a page. Like, you in theory know this because you can find those little details everywhere, but you don't really know.
Yeah, I when I started writing that book, I hadn't tapped into the Twitter community or the writing community at all. I was kind of a little feral child out on my own because I didn't have a lot of access to internet as Twitter was coming up. So I was figuring this out on my own for the longest time. And then as I was writing it, I tapped into writing Twitter and I got to like watch authors talk to each other about their processes. And that was like, I understand now. And I really think it was the difference between all of the wasted effort that I'd put into things in the before times.
None of it is wasted. That.
It's tuition. Yeah, it's tuition in education.
Yes, that's what it is. Exactly.
But I was a habitual non-finisher. So, I'd start a project, I'd get stuck, I couldn't figure it out. But it was watching authors talk about how frustrating their first drafts were. That made me feel like, okay, well, if I just stick to this, no matter how frustrating it is, at least I can fix it later. So, and it was just like a light bulb for me. So I owe a lot to writing Twitter.
And Plothead had a comment. Krystle deserves all the recognition and accolades eagerly anticipating Brick and Bone.
It's a bit of a
yeah, Plothead. Love Plothead. Justin, he's great.
Yeah.
I still owe him a blog post on neurodivergence. I'm not even sure if he still posts those. He asked me like 2 years ago or something. I'm like, I'm planning on doing it. Justin, I know you're watching. I'm planning on doing it eventually. Just it might be after book 3. So, FYI.
And Lana had a question for you, Justin. How many books do we get for Silent Gods?
The Silent Gods is a tetralogy, but it's part of the super series of the Lore of Luquatra, which lets me do whatever I want. But I have 3 tetralogies, 3 tetralogies planned, and also some standalones and short stories and stuff. I should caveat all this by saying, when I first started drafting this, I was like, I'm going to write 3 books and 3 books. And they'll like come together and it'll be like it'll be perfect. It'll be great. It'll be like this arc and this arc. And it's all going to be wonderful. And then I sat down to write the outline, and I thought I had the outline for book 1. And then I wrote book 1, and I was only 1/3 of the way through what was supposed to be book 1, and I was like, I have made a huge mistake. I have an outline for 18 books, and I had no idea. I mean, I should have known because I've been working on it for 15 years, but I had no idea. No idea. I just thought this is what people did, and now I'm like, anytime I talk to anybody else, like I'm not a habitual finisher. Like I work on one thing and I take a really long time, and then I do one draft and I turn it in and I'm done. Basically, I do a little bit of edits, but I really don't like. I don't start new projects generally. The novelette was an exception because I was trying to write a short story, and I failed and wrote a novelette for the anthology.
Justin, I think we're the same person.
I love finding like-minded souls, Krystle. You and me, and I think what's his name?
Thomas Howard
We've got
Riley.
a lot of
Yes, I think that's
Thomas.
him, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thomas.
We Break Immortals. Is that his?
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
Thomas.
We're in the same camp. Yeah. And if anything, he might be worse than me, and that's saying
a lot.
Yeah.
His not a novella. You must have seen that. The not a novella.
95,000
draft,
words.
and
You
started
mentioned
as
that.
Wow.
Yeah. We have problems with understanding our limits or our lack thereof.
Yeah.
Because which is good for people, but when you're told you have to finish something within 4 books, that's not a great limit for me. Like I would be done with book 5 by now if I wasn't told to finish it in 4 books. Like that's the difference in like work. I have to work hard to be shorter rather than
doing a short story is very challenging. So the what's it called? Alchemy of Sorrow anthology. Virginia invited me onto that, and the budget I was given was 10,000 words. And the story that I ended up with was 20,000 words, and everybody who read it said, no, this is a novel. Like you can't just end it this way. Like I need more. So that's something else I'm gonna do someday. I had to come up with a different idea because I was like, I can't make this 10,000 words. And so writing that short, it turned out it had to be 1 day and 2 named characters, and that's how you get 10,000 words. It was the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, and they don't teach you that in like writing school. They're like, for this short story, you should be sure to stay between this number of words and these many characters, this many points of view. Please don't get into any minutiae about your magic system or anything like that. You don't have time for that. Just focus on these principles. They don't tell you that. So you're like, I know how to do this.
Yeah.
I've written chapters. Chapters are short. Uh-oh.
What's happening? Yeah.
And Plotted said, I'll take it when I can get it, Justin. I'm going to be restarting that blog series soon.
Oh, good. So it's not late after all. It's just, it'll be right on time.
Yeah.
A wizard.
It'll be on time for the relaunch.
And Hannah had a question, Justin. Who are some of your favorite female fantasy authors?
Oh, man.
Oh, on
Should
the
I
spot.
pretend to be
That's a tough one.
misogynist or no? So the obvious immediate answer is Robin Hobb, because she's amazing. Having said that, I wasn't entirely captured by the description for the Rain Wilds side of her writing. So I've only read the Fitz and the Fool, Fitz, Chivalry, Farseer, Assassin's Apprentice side of her writing, which is amazing, phenomenal, great characterization, great plot, so unique in the way it approaches those things. I can go on. Like, she's great. So she's definitely in like my top tier of writers that I respect, that I try to learn from, that I try to emulate. There are other female authors whom I have read some of which people probably wouldn't know because they're less well known. And because of that, I would have to look on my phone and find them on Audible and look up their names. But I've liked their series, I've liked their writing, and I would like to read more of them. In fact, I think Shay something was the name of one of them. But I also have a lot of female authors who I'm friends with and or really like as people and have yet to get to their series, like Krystle, for example. But there's a plethora of those, and I have just as many or more male authors who are in that camp. I'm trying to think if there are any other contemporary female authors that I could throw in there. That might be something I'll have to circle back to, or pretend like I am going to circle back to it, because maybe we'll never get back to it. But I will admit, in general, my reading queue tends to be male dominant. And I think that's partially because I grew up during a time when there wasn't a lot of female authors on the bookshelves in the library. You know, reading David Eddings and Ari Salvatore and Robert Jordan and I did read some female authors, but you know, none of them I don't recall. But I should look up the other one on Audible though, because give credit where it's due. It was a good series. I enjoyed it. So.
Which one?
I'll look it up and tell you.
Sorry, I thought you said mentioned the series name. That's why I was like, no, I didn't hear that.
Well, and there were a couple. There was one involving dragons that I thought was rather well done, and I wanted to keep reading it. And I got it as some kind of like, this is back in the day when I would get packages of Audible books that are like, get the trilogy, the omnibus. Get this omnibus. This, and I was,
yeah,
great deal. I love that.
That's a good deal.
Yeah, Shay Ford, I think that might be the name actually. So I'm gonna look it up, see if I can find it. Let's see, is that it? Ford.
Everybody to the phones.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not even sure how to spell Shay. Which is part of the problem. Maybe somebody in the Twitter world will like figure it out.
Spectre says, "Hey guys, hope everyone is having a good Friday." I
Oh,
can't wait to my
found it.
special. Oh, did you?
I did.
Good
Faster
job.
than me. Yeah. Is
Oh,
that
there
it?
you go.
Yeah, that
Oh,
was
Shade for Harbinger.
Harbinger.
Now, what's the series called?
Fates Forsaken.
Fates Forsaken. That must be it.
Never had cool covers though. Never have heard of the series.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't. The females that are well known, aside from Robin Hobb, they're like, oh, I really want to read that. Like Jane Fonda's series, I really wanted to read.
Oh yes, I have all those.
Yeah, and most of them, I may not remember the female author's name. I probably do, but I'd have to think about it for a bit. And I know the series though. Like I'm like, oh, that's what like Andrea Stewart, is that?
Yep.
Andrea Stewart, yeah,
Bone
Bone Chip,
Emperor.
Yeah,
Bone
so
Shard
she's the
Emperor.
one like, oh, I really need to read that series.
Bone Shard.
Yep.
Yeah, Bone
Bone
Shard.
Emperor.
Yeah.
Emperor's daughter. Yeah, Emperor. Yeah.
Andrea is great.
Yeah. So there's a
Andrea's
ton of fantastic
fantastic.
female authors out there, and they're in my TBR queue, and then I keep adding more to my queue, and that makes it hard to finish writing my series. So, that.
Yeah.
The thing about writing, it's like we love stories and books so much that we wanted to tell our own, and then all of a sudden we have no more time for reading books because all of our brain power is taken up by trying to figure out our own messes.
Well,
it's
that's
tough.
where me and Mihir come into
Yeah.
play. Seriously.
Oh, yeah. I've read
Every
5
time I
of
chat with Beth, she gives me one more recommendation. Like my TBR is destroyed by her every time I chat with her. Just like, we'll be chatting about something else entirely, and then before we end, she'll slip in the recommend like, "What are you reading?" And I'm like, "I'm reading this," and she'll be like, "I read this. This is really fantastic. Read it." I'm like, "Oh yes, I will. I need to." And she always presents it like this is really good, and it is really good. It's just that it just goes on and on and on, and I'm like,
I've even bought him books. I'm like, hey, I'm going to buy you a book. Here, take it. I'm like a crack
Reading the
dealer.
addiction.
Yeah, TV addiction.
You know who I
And
really
whoever did-
liked is I can't remember the name either. It's the City of Brass and then Kingdom of Copper.
S.A. Chakraborty.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh,
Yes.
her books
That's another
are
one on my list.
beautiful.
And who is who
Yeah.
I remember meeting at Worldcon, and she was so nice.
Oh, really?
So nice.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's got something new coming with pirates.
Queen of
or
Silver, something of
soon,
Silver. I remember the name. Something
Yeah.
of Silver.
River
It's like a
of-
pirate.
River of Silver.
Actually, it's a new series set in the same world, but it's like to the east.
Okay.
Like, original world was like in the middle
Yeah.
east of her world, but now it's more a little bit to the east, so it's heading towards a little bit toward the Indian side. It's about a female pirate, if I'm not wrong.
that sounds
I've heard
great.
her-
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Female
heard her-
pirate?
Yeah. I love that first trilogy. Those were beautiful books.
They were-
R.F. Kwang, I think I'm pronouncing that right. Maybe Kwang.
Yeah.
She's also another person I want to read.
Yeah,
Poppy War?
Poppy War.
Probably
Yes.
And
more.
then
Poppy
Babel is
Yes.
the new one. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Let me think here.
There's
Arkady
a-
Martine,
Mhm.
Shauna McGuire,
Oh,
Cameron
yeah.
Hurley,
Yeah, I've got her in my list too. So many people.
Alex Harrow.
Oh, Alex
Um,
Harrow. Yes, I have one.
Oh, I have
one
read Anna Stevens. She's good.
right there.
Yes.
And right beside it, I have Hannah Witten that I really want to read. I have no time. I also have Catherine Arden that I really want to read, and I have no time. Yeah.
R.F. Quang,
Holly
Wanda
Tinsley.
Lee.
Oh,
Holly
Holly.
Tinsley, yes.
Holly is
Vanguard
fantastic.
Chronicles. Really fantastic.
Yeah, really good.
Becky Chambers, Charlie Jane Anders.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
love Charlie Jane.
I'm gonna add in Heather Schaefer. She's Craig Schaefer is her alter ego. Writes everything under the sun, like dark fantasy, dark urban fantasy, urban fantasy, horror spy fiction. She's really good. Anna Stephens, I don't know, Justin, if you mentioned it or or somebody else did. She
Oh,
has
yeah,
a book out last year called The Jaguar Path. It's like a new Mesoamerican based epic fantasy trilogy. Really good, really dark. Crystal, I think you really like it as well. There's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
there's
cool.
good guys and bad guys, but there's no good guys and bad guys as such. It's just like different perspectives. I really love that.
Calcade's really good. Calcade,
Oh.
Rebecca Roanhorse.
Rebecca. Has
I didn't
anybody
even know
ever read-
Carol Cade was a female author. Is that a female author?
Yeah.
Yes, she is a female author. She kind of keeps that on the down low.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I didn't know Elaney was a female blogger until a long time into our conversations. Yeah.
Has anybody ever read Jennifer Fallon, the Australian author?
Well, I think I have actually. One sec.
She's got a series out called The Tide Lords. It's about a series of immortals, one of whom who wants to die. He wants to, do suicide and die, but he can't. That's how the series begins. It's really fantastic. The series is done, and that ending of hers in that series is the boldest I've ever read in all
Is
of
it-
it.
Ooh.
Is it this one?
No, this one is the Medallion series. It's like a different series. This one's good too. It's a Demon Child trilogy, if I'm not wrong.
Oh,
But-
Ty Lords. I see it.
Yes, I think the first
Good,
book
yeah.
is called Prince of Impossible Dreams or something.
Prince of Princes.
Yes, Mortal Prince. Yep.
And I'm sorry, I'm terrible with book names, so I
Mhm.
have to look everything up because I'll just forget it.
Yeah,
I just
forget
forget it. It'd be like
There's
it's the one with the thing with the
Yeah.
dragon and the dude with the sword.
That's funny because I can usually remember the titles better than the authors, unless I know them pretty well. I was going to say Naomi Novik's A Deadly Education series thing. I haven't
Yeah.
read. I bought the books, and they're like also in my queue. But like that totally attracted me with the whole magic school thing because if people don't know, I really love that trope a lot. So I tried to stick it in my book. And
I just finished the Golden Enclaves.
is that
Ooh,
the third one?
That's the third one. Yeah.
All right.
So
It's the one I don't have in my TBR, even though I haven't started the other two. It's probably why it's not on TBR.
it's so good.
One more fun book from earlier this year.
Yes.
Thankfully,
That's a
Bye.
gorgeous cover too.
It
by the
is.
way.
It's
Yeah, it's
beautiful.
great.
Oh yes,
And-
I love that cover.
And Chelsea Abdullah. I don't know if you have read the Stardust Thief.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I
It's
have
one of
that,
my
actually.
favorite- Yeah, it's one of my favorite books this year, and
I have so many
she's
books.
a funny lady as well. but her book is just so much fun, and her characters are
She's
fun,
so
but they
charming.
make bad decisions and they make worse decisions, and it just cascades from there. I love her series.
Perfect.
Bad
I can't-
decisions.
Yes, I can't have enough of that. And plus, it's like it's pirates and it's magic and it's in like a Middle Eastern setting, and it's just fun.
Oh,
She's made
cool.
it so fun. Like, she's one of the authors whom I'm really excited for. And this year somehow it has been like so many good debuts. Like, it's been an awesome year for debuts, and
Yeah.
it's like, the book is getting kind of like, it's being not hidden, but it's kind of like falling under because all of these other awesome debuts.
Hannah's, they just started a book club where they only read female written adult fantasies.
Oh.
Hopefully,
and
we've
it-
given her a lot of recs now.
Yeah.
And Sam Hawke, City of Lies,
Yes.
and Hollow
Yes,
Empire.
yes.
Those
She's
books are
also. I have also purchased her book and not read it.
I have a series that I did on Before We Go. It's 100 books written by female authors.
Oh.
Like,
Mhm.
I went out
I
and
should
found
know that
100.
since I'm part of the team.
Yeah. It was a while ago. It was a while ago. The formatting is screwed on some of my older posts
Oh,
too.
no.
So it's like, yeah, because when we redid the site and put it on a fast server, the formatting for the older posts got, foobarred. So it's like you have to like look around as your text is everywhere. And it's 100, so it'd take me like 2 days to fix it.
Well, they have a book club that maybe they can divvy it up, like, hey, you look on this side, you look on that side, so they all can figure out which are the 100 authors.
Please, somebody help me.
There's Anna Smith Spark. There's Sarah Chorn, Sienna Frost,
Yes. Oh my gosh. Sarah.
Virginia McLean, Angela Board,
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Johnny Warts.
Yeah,
Johnny
Johnny
Warts,
Words. I have one that doesn't get near as enough love. Do you guys know Kelly Robson? Robson?
Oh.
Robson?
Heard of her.
It's
Yeah.
ringing a bell. I think I know her on Twitter.
I probably. She's got one coming out
Yeah.
called High Times and Low Parliament, and she wrote
Okay.
something in the Lucky Peach, and I think she won a Hugo for it.
Ooh.
Oh.
Let's see.
Is she a
Kelly-
Texan writer? Is she from Texas? I somehow feel like.
I actually think she's from Canada.
Okay, never mind. Then I'm thinking of somebody else.
I love her books. God's Monsters and the Lucky Peach.
That's a good title.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's a very cool cover too. Like,
Oh yes, and
I've
there's
seen this.
That's a cool cover.
yeah,
That's a cool cover.
it's a cool
I'd pick
book.
that up off the shelf and be like, oh, that's
Yeah,
cool.
this is cool. Yeah.
Very.
Patricia McKillop.
Oh,
Not
she's
familiar.
she's from the 80s, right? I've heard of her.
N.K. Jensen, Catherine Addison, Susanna Clark.
Yeah.
Louise Blackbuster
Smash
Joe.
Makers.
Steve, one of the names you mentioned is whom did you mention after Sarah Chorn?
Sienna Frost.
Sienna Frost, she's really good. Grimdark, but maybe one more after that. Who else did you mention after?
Sienna Frost.
You mentioned Angela Board.
Angela Board.
Let
me
me think
see.
of who else. You mentioned really a wonderful author who doesn't get
Virginia
enough love.
McLean.
Yep, definitely.
Oh,
Virginia
Virginia,
doesn't get, her
yes.
books are like, she doesn't get enough love. Cyrus Claw is really good too.
yes,
Yeah,
and
this-
she's helmed Alchemy of Sorrow. She pulled us all together.
She's magic.
To build that. And Intezar Kanani. So she just did
Yes.
her Kickstarter. She successfully funded her audiobook for her third book in a trilogy. Kay Vioso is in our anthology. Her Bitch Queen Chronicles.
Yes.
Bitch Queen
Yes.
Yes.
Trilogy.
He will also.
I think I just supported her today on
her-
Kickstarter.
Yeah, she's doing a
got funded
Kickstarter.
today. It got funded. Outlaw Mage.
cool.
It just got funded.
Yeah.
Well, not just.
I
but
just
a few years
supported
ago.
her on that
Today,
for an
yeah.
ebook. Yeah.
Leanne Hearn is a pseudonym. Julian Rubinstein.
I've read her first book. It's It's across a nightingale floor. It's kind of like set in a pseudo-Japanese world with samurais, and it's more on the slower side. It's more for people like who like Robin Hobb, but it's a little bit faster paced than Robin Hobb's books. But it deals with all the emotions and stuff like that. It's a nice book.
It's funny when you say.
I hear.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just mentioning Robin Hobb's books are slow. And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess they are, because I don't even like think of them that way. But then like when people talk about it, I was like, oh yeah, actually, yeah, that was slow. I just was enjoying it so much.
Yeah, that's the reputation I hear, where it's like, as you're reading it, it feels very slow, and then you get to the end and go, holy shit.
Is that like Malazan
it's just-
syndrome?
I love slow burn books like those. So what was the name of that author, Mihir?
Leon Hearn, Hearn, Across the Nightingale Floor.
Liam?
Leon,
Leon?
Lian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leon.
I'll message it. Don't worry. I'll tweet it out. I'll DM it to you.
Someone will write it, and we'll find it.
Yeah.
Yes. That sounds like something I would enjoy reading.
Spectre wants to give a
I'll
shout
buy
out
the
to.
books and then never read them, because that seems to be what happens. So.
Yeah, that's par for the course.
Very
CL
relatable.
Moore.
It's two different hobbies: buying books and reading books, and whether or not you buy the book or read the books that you actually have, it's like they're two totally separate hobbies. One is like
I
you're
feel
a
called out.
curator of a beautiful library.
I feel called out.
I'm calling everyone out.
So this is funny. Chris says Shauna Lawless has a great new debut novel coming out. So I met Shauna
Shauna,
at
yes.
Worldcon like 2 or 3 years ago, before she had finished writing the book, I think. And she was like, yeah, maybe when I finish my book, you can blurb it. And I was like, oh, for sure. And then she like sent it to me like a couple months ago. This, of course, was in the midst of everything else that was going on. It was crazy. And I never read it and blurbed it. And I told her I felt so bad and I want to read it. But she's a fantastic person. And I'm sure the series is going to be really good. So I'm excited to read it. But Chris mentioned.
I know certainly all the bloggers that I know that I respect have really enjoyed it. So I always take that as a good sign.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Beth. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, you were talking about like, curating your collection of books. Have you ever heard of the king bow? Do you know what a king bow is?
No.
Okay. So in 2007, Stephen King released his series of books from Hodder, color-coded. And you line them up, and it's a rainbow.
Oh,
It was
cool.
in 2007. I have been hunting down the copies of the King Bow for the last 5 years since I heard about it.
Like a
I had-
rainbow. King
Like
bow.
a ring.
Got it.
King
Yeah,
Bow. King Bow. They call it the King Bow. Yeah, I have 6 more. The 6 that I don't have, the copies are over $1,000 a piece, and they are paperback books. They're paperback books, and that's just not. I'm not gonna spend $1,000 a piece on the last 6. Like, it's just not gonna happen. But I have the rest of them.
This is the thing that eats me.
They're
There's
so
like
pretty.
a huge black market for these special editions.
Yeah.
Like, people just purposefully buy them in advance. They don't care for them, and then they'll sell them for like 6 times, 7 times, or in this case,
Yeah,
like
they
more
wait.
than the market price. And
It took me a year to get a Lumicrate, to get in on a Lumicrate. I had to be on a waiting list for a year.
Mhm.
And then, like, for Goldsboro, I think it was 6 months before I could pay them to send me books.
What about the broken binding? Have you got in on that?
Oh, yes. I bought your
Oh.
book from the Broken Binding, actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know I did. Yeah, the only problem with the Broken Binding, beautiful books. I have their membership also, but the shipping is crazy
Yeah,
high
to the US, it can't be good.
for the
Oh,
US.
yeah.
It's just
From the
crazy
UK.
high.
Much
yeah.
better for the UK. But
Yeah, but yeah, I have their.
Oh.
Broken
Yeah,
binding.
yeah.
Oh,
Broken binding.
Let me go get my
And-
Lumicrate. What's that?
I love the broken binding. I've been talking with the guy who started the broken binding when he was still a fantasy guru at Waterstones, So I was like watching the whole thing happen as it happened. It's been so cool. Like, he's amazing. He's a prodigy.
I just wish that there was some way to get these special editions, not these exorbitant prices, because like I watch it on eBay. I have these alerts set up for the books that I love, and the prices that come up are just like, I cannot justify buying that. I mean, not unless I won the lottery, but I did. So
One more female author that's, if you like dark and disturbing books, is Halo Scott, the Rift Cycle. That series is something else.
I don't know that one.
It is good stuff. If you like dark and disturbing, it's a really great series.
On occasion, I have been known to enjoy such a story.
Yeah.
Let's see what I got here.
And Spectre asks, is that a sword hanging on the wall?
This is my 1868 cavalry saber. My
Wait,
husband found that for me.
which country?
The U.S. It was made in Boston.
Okay. All right.
The pop quiz, I'm really failing. I know the name of the guy that made it, but
It looks a lot like
I
the
can't see it.
the Cossack and French sabers that came out like 10 or 20 years before that, which are my favorite sabers, my favorite swords.
yeah, I have a replica up there that's doubled as a hat rack, but it's they were made in Boston
Yeah.
during the war. Listen, I don't have a lot of space here. But my husband bought me the original, and then Connor Kaplan sent me the replica at about the same time. Like it was just I don't know what's the word for it when two random things happen at the same time for no good reason.
Serendipity?
Yeah, there you go. So the replica is a replica of the same sword that my husband found for me.
nice.
So
All right. So here's a Goldsboro.
Ooh, ordinary monster.
Comes with
oh,
the-
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so jealous, Beth.
Yeah. And then let's see. I got Jen Williams.
oh,
Love
those
this
are
one.
gorgeous books.
The 9th frame.
Yeah. And they're all signed. This total. I mean, look at the binding on this one.
Oh,
That's cool.
Pretty.
Yeah.
I'll have to talk with you about your favorite special editions, because right now I'm doing numbered copies with Anderida Books in the UK. I don't have anybody who's doing special editions of my book in the US. And at some point in the future, I'll probably use broken binding, probably when they have stores actually in the US.
Yeah.
Because they're planning on doing that in the future.
Oh, cool.
but-
They'll have like satellite branding.
It'd be
yes,
good.
exactly. Yeah.
That
So
would
once
be good.
once they do that, and once I've got all 4 books out, we're probably going to do like a box set that's going to be something pretty cool, because knowing him and I, we'll probably come up with something,
Blacklight.
but more than that. Like there'll be bonus chapters and bonus artwork and
Oh my God, like a blacklight sprayed edge.
like,
Yeah.
Oh, that would be
yeah.
really
For those that don't
That
know,
would be
I
very
do
cool.
secret messages with
You
blacklight
have
in
that.
all my
the
books
ink?
that I sign. If it's
Yeah.
not signed, then don't go searching for.
He said it was there. He said it was there.
Yes.
These 20 pages. There's nothing.
If I signed it though, like 99% of them have secret messages that are in visible ink. So
Very fun.
Lana has a question. Krystle, do you have an ETA on your audiobook?
I do. It's releasing September 13th. It's supposed to be on pre-order right now, but I don't know what happened. It's not linking to Amazon, so hopefully it will arrive September 13th. But as far as I know, that thing will drop September 13th. And Paul and Felicity both were amazing to work with, and I'm super excited to hear how they brought it to life. And yeah, I'm very excited. That's through Podium, so it'll be exclusive to Audible.
Oh, I was gonna mention Ursula K. Le Guin. Like, she's my favorite.
she's in my TBR.
Yeah, she's a goddess. She can't do any wrong. Ryan Howes and I were part of a big competition over who had the best author, and like you had your champion, and at the very end it was him and I across all of book Twitter going head to head, and it was Ursula K. Le Guin against Mary Shelley.
Wow.
Yeah, I won. Yeah.
With Le Guin?
Yes, with Le Guin.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've read Mary Shelley. She's not in my TBR.
Yeah, I read Mary Shelley. I can't say I just can't do the gothic.
Oh, this
stuff.
shade.
Oh, Mary Shelley.
Ryan. Ryan, are you watching? You just got killed.
He
I actually
knows.
like Gothic fiction.
He knows. He sent me a copy. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shipping is outrageous right now.
Mhm.
Margaret Weiss read some great fantasy books. I enjoyed
Yes,
her
she did.
Deathgate cycle.
Yeah.
And
Isn't
had
she
it,
the
no, that was
lady
a great
who-
question.
Who wrote
That was a great question.
Morgaine, you know, the Arthurian legend books, Margaret Weiss, was that us, or is that something else, somebody else?
Oh, Miss. Are you thinking Miss of Avalon?
Yes.
Yes.
That
She
is
write
somebody
that?
else. Although I can't remember her name. That
I
is somebody
heard
else,
that she's
though.
got some pretty shady
Yeah,
stuff
'cause-
going on in her life.
Yeah.
Whoever wrote the Mist of Avalon? Oh, Marion Zimmer Bradley. Never mind, wrong person. Marion
Yeah.
Zimmer Bradley. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
the crazy, not crazy, really horrible author. She,
Yeah.
like I wouldn't read her books. Just, I know that you're supposed to separate art and artist, but some things I just can't do. So yeah, she's the person who's really horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That Margaret Weiss is someone who's written really fantastic.
Margaret Rice is a real sweetheart.
And
Emma
Hannah made
Spencer,
it.
yay! Dragon Mage, yes, that is
Yeah.
really a fantastic book.
Yeah, Hannah makes an interesting point. I think it's interesting that so many female authors use
Yeah.
abbreviated pen
It's-
names.
It's something that I considered as I was getting ready to publish. And a number of years ago, back when I was writing crime fiction, I was planning to publish under a gender neutral pseudonym, just because of the stigma against, you know, female writers. And you know, they get shelved in the wrong places. They get shelved in romance and young adult when they're not writing that, and it just seemed like such a hassle. But then when I was writing Brightwash, I was like, you know what? No, no, I'm not gonna hide. And
Good for you.
I understand everyone who chooses to do that, and I'm not saying that they're hiding, and I get it because I was considering it too. But it's just at some point, it's just like we have to shake the cage a little and say, like, hang on, no, I'm to be taken seriously. So yeah, that was my little
I actually planned
hill
to
to
write
die
under
on.
JT Call initially until my agent told me not to. But and that was partially because like that's the nickname my mother uses for me, and I just thought it would be fun. And I don't know whether that would have been a bad decision. Maybe whether that would give me less readership. I hope not. But
It sounds.
I
like
don't see anything wrong with initials. But I do like knowing whatever the person. Like if I meet somebody, I want to be able to call them their name. So
It
Yeah,
really
and I
sounds
think
like a
in
thriller
this
author's
age of social media, it gives us kind of, you know, more connectability where it's like we're in a time where we can sell books on our personalities now, and I think it's really fun to embody that with healthy boundaries, of course. But you know, I'm glad I decided that I was gonna pick this hill.
Good.
I think it's working okay so far.
Yeah, that
What were you
makes
saying
me
here?
think of GM Nair. Ganesh,
Mhm.
GM Nair. He's just
Oh yeah,
100% personality.
he's fantastic.
SPSFC finalist, right?
Yes.
His
Yeah.
book was a finalist in the
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
SPSFC. Space Bowl. His first book was a finalist.
Baseball.
The I'm sorry to Hugh Harvey and Duncan Swan, but it just isn't rolled off the tongue.
Ugh.
It's not.
The letters
Self-published
are really
science
hard to
fiction
keep track.
competition.
what was
Or
the name
contest.
of the book?
Yeah.
Ducats and
Dicks
Dyer.
for hire. Duckett and Dyer. Dicks
Duckett
for
and Dyer.
hire.
Yeah. It's
You know,
Nice.
It's
He's
it's
hilarious.
amazing.
I
It's
love
amazing.
when you get something like that and you're like, I already know I already know the tone of the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, actually,
he
he's
is
on.
fantastic.
He's on Twitter. Maybe I can get him to come over here
Yeah.
and talk.
Derry said, "Thank you, Krystle, because it can't change unless people push against it." Francois, it's crazy. Your gender has nothing to do with your ability to weave a great tale.
Oh, and
Yeah,
somebody
we
had
hope.
mentioned in the comments before about the Jani versus Empire trilogy with Raymond Raymond Feist or Feast. I don't know how to pronounce his name. That one is one truly fantastic series.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you all have read it, but I love that series. I
Yeah,
wish people would love it. I mean, we didn't love it.
that's the one that's written from the two different empires, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mara of Akoma, and but it's mostly from Mara's viewpoint, and of course, the Magician trilogies, kind of like this, like the people of the Magician trilogy are shown as well, and it's kind of how she. Yep, that's the one.
Yeah.
Derry's. Thank you, Derry.
He's got another. Feist has got another really good series that he's putting out right now. That the third book is coming out or just came out. And of course, I can't remember the name of it because that's what I do.
We're kind of all over the place on our pop quizzes today.
Gosh.
It's a new series, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, it's brand new, and it's
Yeah.
it's excellent, and it's a trilogy. It's like a finished trilogy. It's not 32 books or whatever, but the Serpent War saga.
John-
Somebody tell me. Somebody from chat. It's like I just scanning his 60 books trying to find it. It's really good.
And John had a great comment. Plus, Krystle Matar is a really cool author name.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Adrian Gibson told me that Matar is Spanish for murder, which makes it super on point for writing romantic grimdark.
Is that true?
It is.
That's amazing.
It's funny because I'm fluent in Spanish and I'm looking at your name and I was going to say plus that means kill, and I'm sitting here going like, what am I
Yeah, I
thinking?
love it.
I'm like, that's
No,
not
see,
Matador? No, what is it? It's because it's Spanish. Like I didn't even think about it. But yeah, it's a really great author.
So my husband is Lebanese, and in Arabic it means rain. So it's either very romantic or murder,
Kill.
which is
That's
perfect.
cool. I love
Krystle kills. That's your new
Kill.
author named Krystle.
Come on,
Yeah.
you read Grimdark Romance. Grimdark Romance.
Yeah,
Go with
so
kill.
You know,
it's perfect.
you know the Ravenmark trilogy
Mhm.
by
And
Ed McDonald.
McDonald.
That one,
Oh yes, okay.
I call it Grim Heart, but you could classify it as Grimdark Romance.
That's true.
So is that
Yeah,
like
it's-
having a first date in a bar called the Rusty Bucket or something? Like
Which
you
would
have
be
your
great, by the
or
way.
like the Dirty Clam or
Dripping bucket.
the
Michael
Dripping
Alfredo.
Bucket.
That's Fletcher's. Yeah.
Yep, that's
Yeah,
Fletcher.
We
like-
all need
Yeah.
to include those in the dripping bucket must be in every.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah, so like
transdimensional-
that is your romantic
Oh.
first date, and then you end up killing everybody, but together. It's
Yeah,
bonding.
I definitely put Dripping Bucket as an important place in Brick and Bone. I had to. I had
When I put Dripping Bucket in my series, I'm going to try and find pieces from all of the other Dripping Buckets that exist and put them in the series. People are like, this is like connected to all the other world.
Oh, so I just finished Wesley Chu's book, which I completely recommend. And he has a bar in it called the Twice Told Wife. Like, Twice Told Wife.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. This,
charming.
yeah, it's very charming. Grimdark, very charming.
Hannah, so
It's
there's
a while to
definitely
understand that, though.
Yeah, I didn't get that. There's definitely something different you get from a female's perspective. Love the Daevabad trilogy. Probably mispronounced that. Also love Sword of Kaigen. That's another one, Sword of Kaigen.
Also
Yeah.
my
Sorry,
TBR,
Kagan.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Theonites trilogy, which I think she then decommissioned so that she only had one book. So yeah, interesting.
John
Coming
will.
out with newer ones, hopefully
Alright.
next year.
Interesting.
Okay, there's
Grimdark Romance, KJ Sutton.
Oh, that's going on my list.
There's so
I
many.
wonder too, when you're talking grimdark romance, because grimdark can be very graphic in terms of violence and darkness, but then graphic in terms of romance means an entirely different thing. So, but also romance can mean different things for different people. Like if you're talking about grimdark romance in Abercrombie's books, it's not really romance so much as it is sex. But if you're talking about romance in Ed McDonald's books, I don't really think there's any description.
Yeah,
of sex.
there's
very
a-
relationship like, yeah, it's very different.
Are you asking me which way I've gone?
Well, I'm not asking. I'm just saying that there's a wide span of grimdark romance that you could put into that category.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean, and it's just like, you know, it's such.
But where do you fall on that span? Now that you mention it.
Start your TikTok channel. Go.
So I've matched the level of graphic violence with the level of graphic sex. They're neither of them are treated differently from each other, and because that was a conscious choice, because there was something that I wrote early on as I was drafting where the sex was getting graphic, and I was like, I can't publish it like this. I'll have to edit it later and trim it back. But in the same book, I described somebody dislocating someone else's shoulder with the words "pop like a chicken leg," and I was like, why is that okay? But
I see nothing wrong with this.
Consensual. Yeah. So it was like, I'm not going to pull the sex back when the violence is this bad. Like, that doesn't make sense. So I decided I was gonna write both.
Doesn't George R. R. Martin have a quote about this? You know, that his books are criticized for the level of sex, but there's people are fine with the axe going through the head or the arrow going through the eye. But it's, if there's some amount of sex shown, then it's like, oh dear God.
Yep, that's exactly the fight
sex.
that I was wading into with this, because it's like, now there becomes a different discussion with non-consensual encounters, and that's a whole other discussion. So we'll take that out, put that aside. But for me, why is murdering each other more acceptable than two adults who are capable and willing enjoying each other's bodies? And that bugged me a little bit, that it caught in my head like that. And so yeah, that was just the thing that I was deciding, that no, we're going to talk about this a little bit. We're going to go here. And I'm glad that I did, because I feel like it certainly gave me a very identifiable brand to stand behind. But also, it's just, I feel like generally it's good to have these discussions. As artists, we carry a lot of power with the words that we choose, and it's good to be aware of what we're saying, and it's good to be aware of what kind of conversations we're starting, because I feel like if people could be more comfortable about talking about consensual encounters, then maybe there would be more support behind people who are trying to talk about things that have happened to them. And I feel like things could be moving in a different direction than us flinching away from And that's not to say that everyone has to write it. And I would rather, if an author doesn't want to write sex, then please don't. it's not going to work. But I just feel like it was something that I'm capable of doing because it's how I started writing. So why take it out of my identity just because I was worried about what people would think? That's a stupid thing to worry about if this is going to be my career.
That's interesting. So I say it's interesting because I agree with everything you said, but then I look at my own writing and it's like very visceral, graphic descriptions of violence, which come naturally to me, and I don't have to spend much time on them, and I really enjoy writing those scenes, ironically. But
it's very cathartic.
I love writing scenes of violence. It's like it's so easy to write when people are getting dismembered and all of these dialogue. Like there's so many opportunities to describe things that we don't normally get to see, hear, feel, etc. So it's like all
and it's
the
very
words are
confronting. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, confronting in what way?
Well, it's like you're putting your reader into something that is uncomfortable and entertaining, but hopefully it's a little bit uncomfortable.
Yes.
Because
yes.
Like,
I do.
And
yes.
I love writing violence.
Yes. Well, and I say that because when it comes to like characters, I'm like, oh, I think these characters are about to have sex. I haven't written any.
Now
sex.
what do I do?
I'm like, what do I do?
Get up, turn on Barry White.
Yeah.
What commercial?
I did the same thing when I was working on Brightwash, but I suspect the difference between you and me is that I started writing in fan fiction, and fan fiction is very famous for a very particular kind of content. So that's where I learned, and so when it came up, it was just a natural flow of the scene, and I thought, I can't, I have to edit this back. But I was like, no, I'm not gonna hide. And I think it's just if I was gonna be here and this was gonna be my career, I was gonna pick all the fights that I wanted to pick, and so be it.
So I had a really funny moment when I was talking to Mihir about the Maleficent 7. Okay.
The movie?
Yeah. Okay. So the Maleficent, I loved the Maleficent 7. Like I recommend that.
Yeah.
Cameron Johnston.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just so much fun, right?
Also on my TBR.
one of the first words that came out of my mouth, it has the best torture scene. And I'm like, did I just actually say these words? And I'm like, totally for this torture scene. Yeah.
But I should feel equally bad that you said that, and I was like, oh, now I gotta read that.
Oh, dude, yeah.
See what I need to learn from someone who's a master of torture.
Like think of it like 7 of the worst villains you could possibly imagine. Like Disney villains hyped up. Just have to come together to defend a small town. And they're just... there's no like redeeming arcs or anything. That's not what this is about.
Yeah, no, they're just...
Oh, no. They're just...
There's an evil wizard queen and her six generals whom she left, and now they have to come back together for a specific reason, which is highlighted in the book. It all makes sense. But yeah, one of them is like a vampire. One of them is like a crazy torturer. And again, the best part about the torture scene?
Pirate queen.
Yes, and it's inflicted upon people who are worse. So you kind of feel like cheering them on. So it's
like Dexter.
Sounding out horrible as I see it.
It's just...
This is like the premise for the 3rd arc I have planned for my series.
Yeah, the vampire torture scene was epic. Like it's so bad.
And we have to move it up my TBR.
And I'm like, hey, everybody should read this. It's amazing.
Who's the author?
Cameron Johnston.
Male?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry to all my female authors who are going to be delayed farther because of Cameron Johnston.
Yeah.
He's another UK author, if that helps, Justin. You can blame
the UK
it on...
author?
Yeah. Aren't you from the UK as well? I'm sorry.
No, I'm from the US, actually. Ironically, people assume I'm from the UK because
you could have blamed on that, British buddy. So
yeah, and I write my books in British English because my primary publisher, and then when my U.S. publisher gets the book, they have to convert it back to U.S. English.
Back to. So
But
you drop the U's, is what you're saying.
Oh, no, I add.
No,
them.
he adds the U's.
No, I know, but when you come back to the U.S., you drop the U's.
They
They do
drop
it
them
for
for
you.
me, and then I double check to make sure they did it correctly.
Yeah.
They hunt and destroy all the superfluous U's. And
Find
then
a
add the
replace.
Z in
Z.
at the end.
Zed.
Z.
And Andrew is 40% into Master of Sorrows.
Which is good.
I
if
hear
he
good things
continues
about that
to be
one.
the rest of the 60%. That's great. I
Has
assume
some-
he's liking it, but he didn't say that, so
yeah,
Like,
he was gushing
like,
today
ew,
on Twitter about
40%. Ew.
it. So, yeah. KJ Sutton is Abercrombie meets Sarah J. Maas. I think that's SJM.
Oh, she's a big
that's
romance author.
interesting.
Super famous romance author, Sarah J. Maas.
Have not read any of her books.
Neither have I, but I know exactly what they contain because of all the people talking about them on Twitter and Instagram.
TikTok. They're all over
I don't
TikTok.
follow, but-
Yeah,
Weird.
like sexy scenes on TikTok.
Yeah, the conversation I primarily hear about Sarah J. Maas is it's like she had written some young adult stuff that was definitely more adult, but often classified as young adult, and then wrote actual adult stuff. And people have really enjoyed her series, but it's definitely characterized as having a lot of sex in it. And I don't know anything beyond that about the books. But
Yep.
apparently people like them a lot.
Good thing to be known for.
You found your niche. You found your audience.
Sexy time.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sexy time with elves.
I've read one of her YA books. It was, I'm sorry to say this, kind of dumb. Okay, I'll rephrase that.
Which one?
A Throne of Glass. I read her first YA book. So I'll rephrase why I said it dumb. So the premise is literally like, there's this main character who's this assassin who's been caught and is imprisoned. And then she gets let go by the prince or king they give her a task and they say, you have to do this for us, then only we'll let you go. But throughout the book, I did not get this sense of danger from her. Like, why is everybody scared of her? Did not make any sense. And it was more of like, and of course, there was a love triangle in it as well, which is fine. Again, no judgment over there. But like the whole premise was this assassin is kept in a mine, shackled and everything because she's that dangerous. She's that of like a John Wick's, like something more than scarier than John Wick.
And they
She's
didn't
a
deliver on that?
teenager?
Yeah.
She's a teenager.
Yeah. And again, it's a fantasy world, so I'll accept that. Fantasy world,
Right,
anything can
But
happen.
then they really need to deliver on that to prove
Yes.
exactly why a teenager was treated like that.
Yeah, and nothing. Like it was throughout the book, it was just more of like and I finished the book because I was like, I want to finish the book. I want to because again, it was a review copy, and I wanted to I had to review it. I reviewed it, and I was like, I didn't say it was dumb, but it just came.
But it was dumb.
It just promised so much, and it delivered 0% of it. So I was like, okay, it's not. And again, I realized it's not for me. I am not her target audience. Let's put it this way. I am 0% of her target audience. So it was definitely not for me. But I just wish there was if you have set up a premise of this badass female assassin who's people are deathly scared of her, you gotta show her do something. Then of course there were some action scenes, but it was more of like romance and with action hidden in between, just to kind of be like keep interest of people like me. But yeah, again, not for me. I'm not the target audience. That's one.
There is so much good urban fantasy that has a female lead. I don't know why get stuck on that kind of series. Like there's so much you could read.
Well, and that's the way it is with a lot of popular authors, though. Like they become known for a certain brand of fantasy literature, sci-fi fantasy, and that's the one people kind of always suggest because that's what I think of when I'm like, oh, fantasy novels that have a lot of sex in them. I'm like, well, I know Sarah J. Maas is one of those, and then I have trouble remembering like Abercrombie does too, but he's not known just for that. He's known for like,
I always find that interesting too because I feel like this comes into the name stuff a little bit because it's like I've seen some of Abercrombie's sex scenes. Like he's doing good. But I didn't know about that until I would have picked his books up years ago if people had pitched it to me like that. but people don't talk about Abercrombie that way.
Right.
Because
Yeah, and as Beth was saying, there's a whole gamut of books that also qualify and fit into that genre, or authors who are specifically in that niche. So, there's no reason to just focus specifically on those authors. Having said that, I do, like, anytime I see an author who's known for doing something very well, that moves them up my TBR, because I'm like, that people like what they're doing. I want to learn what they are doing well, so I can try to further develop that skill.
Yeah.
That's
Let's see. Andrew's talking to Lona Andrews, Kate Daniels. Yes.
Kate Daniels.
Yes. Yeah. Alona Andrews is amazing.
Troy had a comment. What an excellent put. It
That's
seems
another
like graphic.
name I've recognized.
Post-apocalyptic, I love.
Oh yeah. It features Kate Daniels, who's a mercenary in post-apocalyptic Georgia, and the premise is that magic came back. Because all this while we had technology, magic was gone away. It's kind of like stretched like a rubber band, and the rubber band finally broke. So magic came back and hit the world hard. So now everything has crashed.
Oh, cool!
There's pockets of magic and everything, and Kate Daniels is this mercenary whom nobody knows where she's come from. But she has a secret of, obviously, that's the whole premise of the series. And she's snarky. She's very snarky. This is the best example of.
It's just
not
good.
cheesy, just snarky, and she's deadly. And the authors show how deadly she is. Like she's like one of the best warriors with a sword. Like maybe rivaling Elric of Melnibone. She's that good. If there's any David Gemmell fans, she's as good as Kilgannon and Decado and all of those. Krystle knows what I'm talking about. She's that good as sword.
As well.
She's snarky, and the series. The best part of the series is the characters, not just it's Kate, but there's always a focus on romantic character, like her romantic pairing with one main character, and her friendships with lots of other females and male characters, and it is amazing. Like Ilona Andrews have created this whole new world. Oh, and there's a whole lot of politics due to a were clan. There's were bears, there's were lions, there's were hyenas, and everything. And it's amazing. The series is hands down.
It's really good. It's really fun.
How many books?
10 books.
9 or 10?
It's done.
10?
Yeah, 10.
I laugh
I haven't
because
read the last 2.
I like the long series, but then it prevents me from getting through my TBR that much quicker.
No, but they're on the thinner side.
Depends on how long the books are, though.
I mean,
Yeah,
I was
they're not that
Because not everybody writes fantasy books like we do.
Yeah,
I know.
they're,
It's so weird.
they're the shorter
I
side.
can recommend The Hollows to
Some
you,
people stay in 5 digits.
which is 17 books now.
Wow.
18 books.
Well, I mean, Ilona Andrews, that's definitely that's 100% something I should be reading, because that
And I
sounds like
believe
hitting all my buttons. Plus, it's covering stuff I don't typically read that I want to read that I enjoy.
I think it's a writing team too. It's a
Yes,
husband-wife
husband-wife.
writing team.
Husband wife. Yep.
Yeah.
Ilona Andrews is?
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Ilona
Yeah.
Gordon and Ilona. Well, it's Gordon and Ilona. They are the husband-wife pair. Ilona Gordon and Andrew Gordon. Yeah. Really fantastic couple. Lots of really good
Really
humor,
fun.
really good romance, amazing action, amazing characters. Can't speak enough of it. And they're writing a new sequel series in the same world, which you can pick up. The first book is out. I think it was called Blood Hair. It was out last year. They wrote it because of because of COVID, and they released it because their fans were asking for it, and it was a huge success. So if you want to just start out with one book, you don't want to start the whole series, you can start out with Blood Hair by Ilona Andrews.
You don't know me, because I like to start at the beginning and make sure I don't miss out on anything.
Magic Bites by Ilona Andrews. That's the book to begin
I
with.
have a
Magic
great
Light?
series
Oh,
for you.
yeah, 11 hours. They're just little bitty books.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like a half a book. Great.
Have you read Benedict Jacka? Have you read Benedict Jacka? Yeah, I know. Here it is. Have you guys?
This is the difference between bloggers and writers. we're aware of everybody doing really cool stuff, and like, wow, that's so great. I want to do that. Oh, I want to read that. Oh, I love that person. And then you guys are like, here's all the list of books that you must read immediately.
They're like, I read 300 books this year. How many have you read? And you're like,
Oh yeah, that's
I'm working
David.
on mine.
That's David.
yeah.
Yeah. Not us. Not me, at least. Not me.
Not me.
No,
Yeah.
no, not me either. Yeah, I think I've read 83 so far.
I mean, I
80.
put my Goodreads target at 10 this year, and I'm at 6. And that's thanks to
great.
Spitball,
Yeah.
because
That's good enough
I've read
on
extra.
That's
Target.
fantastic.
I don't do Goodreads targets because
I
then people will expect something and I can't deliver that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I used to read like these level, like thicker than this. I used to read this in 2
Yeah.
days. And then I
Me
started
too.
writing and I'm like, oh, I can only do audiobooks now. Because if I'm not doing audiobooks, I need to be
Yeah.
writing. Ugh.
Yep.
Like David read 300 books
Yep.
last month. Like he is just
Wait,
stupid. It's
are you-
stupid.
How?
Really?
How?
He read he's
Hyperbolic?
counting like no, I'm not. He's read
Boss
whole
David, Lord
whole yeah. He's
David?
read
There we go.
whole
So
manga
that's,
series. So he's
Fantasy
his
Addict.
But
Yeah.
still, that's.
yeah. It's still a lot.
Let's
How-
not
how do
belittle
you-
his accomplishment, but also let's put it in perspective. But yes, that's a lot.
Yes, that's why I'm
Mhm.
qualifying. But it's still quite a bit.
How do you remember anything when you read 300 books? In a
I don't
month?
know.
I mean,
Yeah.
how do you?
He does
absorb anything?
audiobooks too. I think he does audiobooks at
Maybe.
work. Probably in like at 4.0 speed or something.
Wow. That's crazy.
I mean, when does he sleep? Because when
I
does
don't
he
know. And he's got a kid too. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, I
it's
barely read with my 2 kiddos. Like they're just and work.
I think it's the difference between having one and then after you have one, it's just downhill from every additional one that you have.
Uh, I was like one and done.
I'm allowed to say that. I have 4.
Nah.
It's
So
like
kudos
10
to
books,
you,
that's like 10
writing
books a
Yes.
day.
and reading after 4
Kudos
kids.
to you. And
Wow.
Angela Board has 9.
9,
10?
yes, 9.
Nine.
Wow.
9.
Angela has
She
9.
is a
Oh, my
superhero, and she homeschools. She's
Yep.
a superhero.
Troy had a comment. What an excellent point.
I
It
think a
seems like
couple
graphic-
have
oh.
moved out.
No, just,
Oh,
it
okay.
seems like graphic violence and sex is accepted on television, but when you put it in a novel and people start pearl clutching.
Very true.
Mhm.
I've seen it go both ways. But yeah, if I were to put sex in my books, I'm sure people would start clutching pearls and be like, you didn't have this in book.
Well, I think, that's a different. That's reader expectations, and when you set a certain expectation, you have to there has to be a visible pivot. But like, if I wouldn't do it mid-series. Like I wouldn't just suddenly add it in.
Yeah, that's actually relevant to the comment right before Andrew's here, because I had
Oh, I missed it.
violence in my first book, but my second book cranked it up, and people were like, "Oh, this is darker than I was expecting."
Me, I'm like, wee!
Right, and I'm like, I was hoping to get to this earlier, but it's a long story, so
See,
How about the Dark Lord?
That tracks, and that's something that I struggled with as well for the second book, where Brightwash, I sent it out and people started saying it's dark, and I was like, it's not that dark, is it? It's fine. You're fine.
Yeah.
And then people were like, no, this is rough.
yeah. Beth was one of the first people to call my book grimdark, and I was like, really?
Really?
Yeah, people
Uh-huh.
were reporting back to me that actually, in fact, this is pretty bad. And then the second book, I was like, oh man, this is too dark. I gotta pull back. I actually wasted a lot of time trying to get away from darkness. I wrote
There's some
a lot of
butterflies.
stuff that I can't use. It's just fluff. And then I was like, oh, you know what? Fuck it. Let's go. I'm just gonna do it. And so yeah, this second book is with the caveat of I'm sorry. So yeah, there's something
that's
about that
nice.
second book where it's like it's time to double down or get off the table.
Just want to say thanks to John. I really appreciate it. Thank you for coming by and for the support.
That's really nice, John.
Yeah, thank you, John.
John, since everybody's thanking you, I'm not going to. I'm going to say we expect that, and please continue to do so.
He said the quiet part out loud.
That's why he's writing about a Dark Lord.
Mm,
It's his inner voice.
Darth Vader.
That's something that I've noticed on Twitter that the writers that I know that are writing grimdarkers are some of the funniest, warmest people that I've ever met.
Joe Abercrombie is too, actually. Same thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like we just channel it differently. We put it on the page and then we can walk away and pretend we're normal.
Yeah.
And that's like for Grimdark magazine, like the staff and stuff from Grimdark magazine. Oh yeah, all happy, warm people.
Yeah.
It does make me wonder, like, if our books do not represent who we are as people on the outside, like, are we those? Is like, from whence does this darkness come? Like, is it just because like we push it into our books so they'll just like freeze us of it, and we're like, oh no, I love it. Like.
Also, what about the people who write those happy books? You know, the happy comedic books.
Oh.
I wonder
Good
about
around.
Hope
What does
punk.
that say about them?
Hope
You know,
punk. You got to worry about those hope
Trust
punk
them.
people. Like what?
Yeah.
What? What is butterflies and rainbows shit?
they are
What?
tamping down something they're not letting out.
Have you not been in the real world? I don't
Richard
trust you.
coming here.
I don't trust your kindness.
Yeah, I don't trust it either. John Quinn has an off scene, off the page rape scene. It worked so well because my imagination made it more horrific than anything that could have been put on the page.
Yes. He's a master.
Yeah, and I think that goes for both sex and violence, and like rape is both. So there are times when being visceral and describing things in detail to make people uncomfortable is like what you need to get people there. And other times when simply leaving it there is so much worse because you can imagine so much worse, depending on who you are as a reader. Clearly, I can imagine a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's a very important point, though, when dealing with things like Grimdark, because it's not like splatterpunk. I don't need to know every little visceral. It's not about the gore. It's everything's with a purpose. Violence with a purpose.
I feel like I didn't really know about grimdark as a genre when I set out into publishing, and I feel like I came to it very naturally, just because there's a lot of room for character study
Mhm.
and how we get there.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You know, like what pushes us there, and obviously you're a deep dive into it, Justin. If you're the hero kind of falls.
Not so heroic.
Yeah, and I
Yes.
I
Right.
read a lot of
Sorry, go ahead.
I read a lot of veteran fiction, so servicemen who go on to write novels. Specifically, Carl Malantes. He was a Vietnam veteran in the Marines, and you can tell he's self-edited a bit for this novel, where he's pulled it back a bit for us civilians, but even that pulling back, he's gone some places where but it feels like it was inevitable. Where else could they have gone and survived? And those kinds of stories really appeal to me, and so that's how I ended up here. So yes, it's not splatterpunk. It's more internal, I think.
That's a really good point, because I will say, like, I've spoken with some of similar people who are veterans from a variety of wars. One who is like a Black Ops commando in Chile, and he was talking to me about some of the horrible stuff that they had to do. And I took a course on Latin American torture narratives, and based on actual real life things, and some of which happened in Chile again. But when I heard those things, I was like, I can't even put this into my book, because people would think that I am trying to glorify this and make things this bad. Like, I can't. People think this doesn't actually happen in the real world. And yet, I'm trying to write a book that has the verisimilitude of like the real world stuff, which is why I don't shy away from that violence, because I'm like, it's not like this stuff that everybody else actually has done and experienced. It's it's actually, it's more censored than that. And so you feel almost justified in that, because you're like, look, if you think the world is not as bad as this, you don't know what the world has, what darkness is in the world.
I wish I could find the quote that that I saw from him that made me pick up his book, but it was like he was explaining that we are not the apex predator of this planet by being nice to each other. We got here some way or another, and of course he puts it way better than I did. And it's important to note that he doesn't glorify it at all. He delivers it in a way that's very matter of fact, and he feels the weight of that and those horrible things that he learned about the human race. And he's gone on to advocate for veteran mental health and stuff. Like he just seems like an amazing. He was at Oxford. I think he was a poet laureate at Oxford, and all of his friends were being drafted, so he gave up his position and went to war. And it was just so he's able to speak about it in a way that's just speaks so eloquently. So he's a really interesting person to look up and learn about.
Who's that author?
Karl Marlantes. So I don't know if you watch documentaries ever, but Ken Burns did a documentary about the Vietnam War, and he has a very large part in the interviews in those episodes. And his book Matterhorn, I think I can get it without knocking anything down. Wish me luck.
I shall not, because that would be hilarious.
So his book Matterhorn, this it's rough. But I feel like, in a way, as fantasy writers who talk about war, it's something that we need to look at, and it's something that I appreciate about grimdark in a way that some of the other lighter genres don't address. Because even if we believe in the side we're fighting on, there's still a cost to that, and so he talks about it really well, and it's a beautiful novel if you can. Through it.
That's a really great point, because like when we whitewash those kinds of experiences, you lose all that authenticity from those. Like you're denying them their voice, and even if you haven't experienced that, and it's not your story to tell, but you're trying to give a voice to people who have no voice, and trying to show their experiences in a way that touches other people's lives. That's a heavy burden to carry, and then for people to be like,
it is,
I can't read that, and you're like, oh, you can't respect this person's personal story that's true, that or based on that truth. Like,
to this point, I want to make a mention. In one of Steve's interviews, him and P.L. Stewart do this really fascinating series of interviews with authors. There's one interview with Anna Smith-Spark and Michael R. Fletcher, and Anna Smith-Spark actually brings to this point, like, grimdark is the one genre that allows people to explore these points which other genres perhaps do not. And the readers are looking to this, because there's, and she brought up this point about, like, yes, rape is bad, but sometimes you need to write about it to show certain things about it which are allowed in this genre. Don't, and leave it up to the author to write about it and express themselves, and then you can judge it if it was done right or wrong. Don't just first say, no, you cannot write about it. So shout out to Spark for saying it much more beautifully.
Conversations, the conversations that come out of what we do potentially can add a lot of value around us, and I think it's something that I'm constantly aware of, and it's part of why I was worried about going so dark, but then it's ultimately why I decided, no, it's time to. I'm going to go there. I'm going to do it.
Oh, you found your people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You're all
for sure.
Yeah.
Steve,
I love how.
I'm sorry?
I said, you're so quiet. You're just mostly moderating, and I feel like I haven't gotten to really know you yet.
That's what he does every time I've been on with him.
I'm the least interesting person, so that's why I have interesting people to come and talk to me, so I don't have to
He's being modest. He's being so modest about it.
I know he is.
He's wonderful.
He has opinions he's not sharing with the rest of us.
Well, we know he's a grimdark reader, so we know
Mhm.
he's got the edge, but also
Oh, yeah.
the warmth.
I love how in chat everybody's like, I read 42. I read 67 books. They just off the top of their head know how many books they've read.
Yeah,
I've
Jerry
read
said, I just wanted
six.
to. How geeky are we that we all know how many books we've read
Yeah.
off just the top of our heads?
Yeah.
I'm a Justin. I don't count because it's like I forget, and I need to update Goodreads, which I'm even worse at. So I just never update them. But I know which books I've read at the end, so I can make a list of like, oh, these are my top 10.
I found that if I don't give myself a little bit of time to breathe after a book, then I don't really absorb it. I need a little bit of space between,
Yeah.
like a day or two, to just kind of take it in.
Well, that's why I read Space Astronauts, so I could just like loosen up a little bit. That was it. It's by Grady Hendrix.
Redneck NASA.
R.O.
Redneck NASA.
Redneck NASA. I have to read it now.
Redneck NASA, and it's Space Astronauts. I love
How's
this
that for a
cookie
palate
he's giving me. Redneck NASA goes to space. That's what I got for you.
Grady Hendrix is a wonderful horror and
he's
comedy
so-
writer. He mixes
he's
them
so
so
funny.
well.
Yeah.
Just-
This is comedy. This is not horror, but I love his horror books. Like he did one on IKEA.
horror
It
story.
wasn't on IKEA.
That does sound like
IKEA.
It has a fabulous cover. Just take a look at it. I'm not kidding. Like a horror store has really like the cover
Hold
just
on, hold
screams IKEA. Like there's just no way you can look at that and say, "Oh, this is."
I am
about
intrigued,
IKEA.
I will admit.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Grady Hendrix.
I,
I gotta
uh,
show
I'm-
you the cover.
I met him at StokerCon very briefly, but he was in a panel, and as soon as he walks in the room, he's one of those people that he's in the room. He has that kind of presence about him.
I don't know if you can see this properly on my phone.
I wish people said that about me, but I don't think
Oh,
anyone's
yes.
ever said that about me.
Horror store.
Horror
Look,
store.
Can you like if you look at this and you immediately think
That is
IKEA,
really clever.
and this book is hilarious.
Again, I
And
know
then
the tone already, and I'm loving it.
Yeah.
There's this one, which is also equally good. Let's see.
Nick Nasa.
Yeah, this is
There are too many good books
can you
being
see
written.
this?
Yeah.
My best friend's-
exorcism.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah. It's like 80s cheese.
Mm-hmm.
80s like leg warmers and snap bracelets.
I do like the 80s.
And the
Can't
devil.
bring them into my series, but I do like the 80s.
Yeah. Looking for redneck astronauts. I can show you guys. It's great.
And Mihir, I know we know you have to run. But what are you reading right now? What are you up to before you go?
Oh, I just finished the first binding. I'm reading The Book Eaters by Sunyi Dean.
Oh.
It's another fantastic debut of this year. And then next up will be this one, which I got from Tor. Thank you, Tor. Pulling the Wings of Angels by KJ Parker.
Oh wow, that's a really intense cover.
I know it's the book blurb just sold me. And KJ Parker I love. So plus, and I'm sorry to say this, I know you both are. I know me, no offense, but it's so small. So that's why it's like a good.
You can squeeze it in.
Bad astronauts.
Nice.
I feel like you should be elongating the S, really. But,
Bye everyone. Thank you so
Bye,
much.
Mihir. Thanks.
Bye,
nice
Mihir.
having you. He's nice. I like him.
Hey,
Oh,
I
yeah.
told you he's
He's
sharp.
He's a keeper.
What do you think, guys?
Yeah.
He's good people. Yeah, we like
Yeah.
him. He's good people.
I tease
And
this. You should be inviting me back.
Anytime. Carl, yes, there is some alcohol. We discussed at the beginning, but
Some of them.
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Oops.
I think Mihir was drinking something.
He was
his-
not
Drinking something.
He was
No,
off.
he wasn't.
He's
That's right.
yeah.
Yes, Beth was
He's
the
on
one
kid-
doing the weird rum thing.
Weird rum drink.
Weird rum thing.
The milk rum.
Yes.
And then you had the
Milk
fun
rum.
bottle.
Yes,
Krystle.
with the horse skeleton on the side.
Delightful.
It's a cool bottle.
It is a really cool bottle. I'm very pleased with it.
I'm drinking some Russell's Reserve. It's a cheap, everyday sipper. Not too bad.
Is that
Catharsis
bourbon?
is a real thing. Yeah, Kentucky bourbon.
It's so interesting. I have to write about alcohol in my books at times, fantasy novels. And I'm like, I don't know anything about this. So I kind of have to, I'm like researching things and asking friends.
Anytime. I am volunteering
Yeah, I can
as
tell
your
you whatever
expert
you
consult.
need. Yes.
Like,
I have a bar. Like I have 200 bottles of alcohol
yeah.
or something. Whatever you need.
I don't have fancy recipes like she does, but I'm more at like the pub level of like just grungy.
I mean, I make up my own
Scott.
drinks based on like
Oh,
the fantasy world and like what I can research and be like, oh, so this is kind of like this kind of drink. So then we'll put, on whatever. But heaven forbid people try and actually make a drink from something in my books because I have no idea what I'm talking about. So in fact,
You don't know
my US
if anyone-
publisher asked me to make a mocktail based on a drink in my book. So I was like, oh, that'll be fun. I can do a mocktail. I love mixing non-alcoholic drinks. So I tried to, I got like, first time I'd ever gotten a non-alcoholic beverage, and this was like a Guinness. I was trying to make a black gambit from my book. I was like, all right, now it's got to be thick and syrupy with a little bit of citrus to it. And I was like, all right, so what do I, and I like mixed some things and I was like, all right, let's see. And I took like half a sip and I was like, this is not for me. This is horrible. I'm either doing something wrong or alcohol.
Wait, you started with
said,
Guinness?
but it's non-alcoholic. Yeah, it was non-alcoholic Guinness. Yeah.
Still.
Oh,
Yeah, I have no idea. Like,
the only drink mix that I'm aware of Guinness is a black and white, which is like two different kinds of beer, or an Irish car bomb, which is
Jaeger bomb.
a shot.
Drop it.
A shot of Irish cream, I think, that they drop into, and then they chug it because it curdles if you leave it too long. So yeah, Guinness is not a good base to start with.
one of my favorite drinks is called a snake bite, and it's half Guinness, half pear cider, and the pear cider sits on top of the Guinness as a float,
like
and
it.
it's kind of
like a black and tan
It kind of-
almost.
yeah, but it's got
the
like
black
a
and tan.
slightly
Oh, yes,
sweet
not black
edge
and
to
white.
it. Just a
Yeah.
little bit sweet. It helps balance out the bitter.
if
I
all
could
of
check
you
those.
lushes can please tell me drinks that are close to thick, dark, syrupy with a hint of citrus to it, that would be great for my research purposes. But I'll have to trust your judgment because
I would say something more like a whiskey that's like a Jägermeister that's got sugar in it with some botanicals.
You do
Is
a
it gold?
port.
That would
You do a
make it
port.
syrupy.
like a
You do a
wine.
nice port.
Like a port wine. Yeah.
Yeah,
It can be very sweet.
yeah. Port
Here you
is
go.
very
We're solving
thick.
this problem for you, Justin.
Yeah, port's
But it's gotta
very
be a
thick and
dark-
syrupy. Yeah, it's dark.
dark, bitter with sweet
Oh well,
citrus.
Well, it's not necessarily bitter, but it's dark
Yeah.
and
I mean, I don't want it to be bitter either. I don't like bitter, but in the book,
you can add bitters though. You can add
Yeah. Patience.
um,
Bashads.
bitters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Citrus bitters or something. Yeah. We can
Yeah, that's
solve
a
this
good
problem
idea.
for you.
yes,
Yeah.
do your research and get back to me, and then I'll submit it to my publisher, and they'll be very happy that I've come up with a brilliant mocktail all on my own.
Yeah, you've come
Yeah.
to the right place. What is the?
We won't tell anyone.
No, is it Starry Night with the Goldschlager and Guinness? Is that what it's? It's not really citrusy
Oh,
though.
nobody should do Goldschlager on purpose.
It's just not too bad. Yeah.
College kids only.
Yeah. Well, it was a long time ago.
Oh, 17.
I know Michael Fletcher knows a lot about alcohol. At least he seems to on Twitter.
Yes.
And then here's my other.
I would
Author
very much
probably-
like to drink with him one day. I bet I will remember nothing, and I will enjoy every minute of it.
I would love to drink with you. That was so much fun.
May not remember much of it, but
Drink with Krystle or Michael.
Yes, Krystal. Yeah.
I wouldn't be fun to drink with at all because I would just be this. This is literally what.
No, we go to brunch with you before. And
Oh yeah,
we'll
I drive
out
home.
for the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't want to invite me to your party? All right, fine. I'll go to brunch.
Well, I don't know that hanging out with a bunch of drunk people for the night sounds like a good time if you have to be sober for it.
You say people and sure, whatever, but when you say authors, that entire, authors, bloggers, that entirely changes the conversation. It's like,
Yeah, it would be pretty fun.
I mean, WorldCon
That's
was a blast.
fair.
It was great hanging out with all those authors and bloggers and people that like books and fantasy and
WorldCon
Terry,
was
You can definitely tag along and chronicle the stupidity and praise in your book.
Darius said, "Fun
doing
fact:
shots.
my mother was
sorry.
prescribed by her doctor half a pint of Guinness a day when she was pregnant with me. This may explain some things."
It doesn't. I've heard that before, that people get prescribed
yeah,
Guinness for
it's
some reason.
It's the estrogen from the brewing process. It's supposed to help with lactation after you give birth, but since alcohol dehydrates you, it actually has the opposite effect.
Interesting.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's just random facts for you.
You know all the good stuff. Iron and Guinness. Yeah, I would guess iron. Yeah. You could practically chew Guinness. So
Yeah.
That's why I thought to use it as a base because that's kind of how I describe Black Gambit as very,
chewy. Mouthfeel?
yeah. Like drinking a Jell-O shot that hasn't turned yet.
Oh God. A melted Jell-O shot.
Oh.
Yeah.
A chocolate
that.
Jello shot.
Yeah, like when you get some pudding and you leave your spoon in too long and the bacteria tends to kind of turn it into this watery kind of gross pudding thing, and then you're like,
Jesus.
well, I'm not
Is
going to
that what happens?
Yeah. You gotta use a fresh spoon. You gotta use a fresh spoon, Beth.
Ah,
You sound like a man who has failed at pudding a few times.
Oh my word, yes. And my father has explained this to me multiple times. Son, don't put the spoon back in the pudding. Because he's right.
I did not know this. Consider me
yes.
my mind blown. Did not know this.
Ice cream, milk, rice pudding. I mean, milk is already liquid, but the bacteria from your mouth. So you got to use a fresh spoon, put it in some other container, and then eat that. And then, otherwise, it's not good. The consequences are not good.
Oh, well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway,
right,
that was
thank you.
completely random. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's good stuff.
Well, I started the random factoids, so it's just a writer thing. It's just that we store the weirdest shit in our brains, and one day there will be a story that needs that fact, and we'll feel fulfilled.
Yeah, it's
So when I interview authors, one of my favorite things to ask is that, like, what amazing deep dive did you go on for the story? Because they've always come up with,
so many.
That's a good question.
get interested in soda pops and then like spend 2 days studying the history of soda.
I did 2 of those semi recently. One was about learning about hippos and why they can float in water and relating that to the ogres in my book. And because they can also float in water like the hippos. In fact, a lot of the things from them is very hippo-like. And then there was the tunnels that are beneath the city in my book. I was learning about the tunnel kickers they had in World War II that would dig underneath the Germans and then like put explosives underneath their camps and stuff and then blow them later, which they didn't get to do very often. But like learning how all of that was done and how they used light in the tunnels, like, takes hours, but it was helpful research, which will be in book 3.
And now it's in your head. And now it's in your head.
And now it's in my head. Yeah,
At
no,
least-
it's so cool.
It's better when it's directed and it serves a purpose. Like
Yes.
I need to learn this for a plot point, because then it feels like we're working. But it's the random stuff, like the pudding, that always makes people in the chat go quiet for a second.
Actually, you asked a question on Twitter one time about you needed a horse breed for one of your characters, like a really, and
What
I'm like,
color?
oh,
Yeah.
oh, you need the gold horse.
I have something.
need-
Yeah.
I have a horse for you. There's a type of horse, gold.
Oh, they're gorgeous.
Yeah, I gotta remember the name of it. I'm gonna look. Hold on.
Either do I.
Darius
The
said
gold. Anyway, go ahead.
it's super high in minerals and easy to absorb for women struggling to keep food down. Of course, doctors aren't allowed to prescribe it now.
Okay, so this
I feel
horse
like
is called an
half
Albuquerque. And this is a real horse. Oops.
I'm on pins and needles here. I'm like, how gold is this gold horse?
Gold.
Very, I
It's like a
did know
bit of
that,
gold.
but it was a really big bowl. Like, and inappropriately, it was like all the pudding from the whole thing. Like it was not a serving size. There's a lot of pudding.
Excuses.
It was like,
So this horse is crazy expensive.
oh,
Oh,
It's gold.
Gorgeous.
wait, bring it closer
Yeah.
here.
Let me see. Okay,
Come
here you
this
go.
way.
what's the name of
No.
it?
I'm trying to get like away from the
This way.
light.
Right. And I'm trying to foil your intentions.
Hold on.
It does appear to be shiny. Like, yeah, that's pretty gold. Wow.
Yeah. It's called an Albuquerque. Hope I'm saying that right.
Spell
And
it.
it is actual gold.
That is awesome. And of course,
Yeah.
that's not enough information. I would have to then research it and figure out how it was bred that way and which part of the world it comes from. And
It's AKHAL. Aqua space Teke, TEKE. And they're just crazy expensive. They come in silver too. They have a silverish look.
Was it?
as well.
like a car. It also comes in red, silver.
They shimmer.
Yeah.
Nope, I've only seen gold and silver, and they like shimmer. They have hair that's shimmery. So when
Lustrous?
they run, lustrous. Yeah, expensive. I think they're a couple $100,000 a piece.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't buy
But you
horses
have-
regularly, so I don't know.
but
if
you
that's
have a
cheap or-
gold horse. I mean, you have a gold horse.
I sold
They
my
come in
kidney, but I have a
silver,
gold
too.
horse.
Keep the horse in the bathroom or something. It's fine. They come in
It'd be
silver
fine.
too. I had the car comparison. But you have to pre-order. You know.
Wow.
So it takes a while to breed these guys.
Yeah, like 5 years in advance, you have to pre-order.
Yes.
Wow. I've learned a lot tonight.
The most random shit.
Yeah, I'm so glad I got to introduce everybody to this random horse. I went on a horse dive.
Hey, Rance.
I went on a horse dive. I wanted to know all the weird horses. So there's the gold
The challenge
horse.
with breeds, just generally like dog breeds or horse breeds or anything, it's like the words that we use are obviously totally inaccurate when you're writing second world fantasy. So then
Yeah.
the challenge becomes how to convey that in a fantasy novel. So I got really lazy and I just went with I think gunmetal gray is what I said or something like that. So
Bougie. You didn't
I'm
say
gonna
bougie?
have to stash that away though. I didn't say bougie. Well, Tosh was not bougie though. Like he needed like a grooty horse. Somebody else will get a gold horse, but it's not him.
There's my hunt for the gold horse.
Yeah, not for the gold.
Short story, guys. Come on.
You know I can't.
Or novella.
A
No
short
problem.
story that'll
Really-
wind up at
Really long book.
100,000 words.
100,000 words.
If I write flash
That's a
fiction, it might
that's a
turn into a short story. Maybe I'll try that one day.
I did a flash fiction. It was 300 words, and I succeeded, and it's going to be published. And I cannot tell you how shocked I am that
Oh,
I
wow.
was somehow able to convey something interesting in 300 words.
Right,
We're
like-
looking it up.
If I write something that short,
It
I'm
was
like,
really hard.
there's nothing here. No one wants to read this. It's so small. No, there's no story here.
It was
no one
really
cares.
hard. It was really challenging, and naturally, the first draft that I wrote was literally double the word count. So I was like, I was going
Only
through and like picking out like one word, or yeah, that was hard. I definitely recommend it though. Like, it's a good muscle to flex once in a while.
That's why I chose to write the short story and wrote the novelette, but it was the shortest thing I had written. Although, to be fair, I did tell Adrian I'd probably turn it into a novel after I write book 4. I'll go back and add the rest in that I didn't add. So there, you know.
How many words did you end at?
I think we cut it down to like 17,000.
That's
Yeah.
not bad.
You know,
That's not
I
bad.
wrote
That's still short.
I wrote like 50,000, and 20,000 of that yes, 20,000 of that was redundant, me trying to get the story written correctly, and then there was like another 100,000 I could have put in that I didn't. And then in the 33,000 that I had to cut down to 17,000, that was hard. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So it's nice and trim.
That's pretty good though.
It's trim now.
It's a
Yeah.
muscle I don't flex very often. Let's put it that way. So,
Yeah.
got to work out a little bit more on that without taking time away from my actual big books. So, but also it's a
Yeah.
muscle I need to learn
That's-
so that I can get my series to fit within 4 books. So that's why I did it too.
We
Yeah,
could always
see, it's good to
schedule a
work
short
out the
story for GDM.
There you go.
Don't you think?
You have 4,000 words, short story.
Oh, that's 4,000 words. That sounds
4,000
really hard.
words.
I think I may be completely way off base. I think I could do a short story that short if it wasn't in my universe. But because I was trying to write a short story in my universe and I was making it canon, there was like so much I had to hang on it. I was like, even though it's a short story, I still have to like put in these elements or it doesn't fit within the universe. But if I was writing a totally
I think
different
I think at this point, writing out a brand new universe would be even harder for me, just because I've lived here so long now.
yeah.
But
I mean,
probably what I would do is go in a different city that I haven't touched yet, so there isn't as much temptation.
yes. Anytime I
That's
think
what I
about
would
writing
do if I
something
had
that's
to.
not in the universe, I'm like, but you know, I could just put it over here during this time. And no one needs to know. Yeah.
Daria likes dad
We're
bod
definitely
books.
the same person.
I like dad bod books. Oh,
Is that
you know
what-
what? You know what?
That's what we're.
It's done. It's done. That's what it's called. It's a dad bod book.
I can get behind that. People have told me that it could have lost 200 pages and been just as good. And I'm like,
Dad bod book.
that's
Blasphemy.
I
How
don't
many-
agree with that.
you don't
What
like
did you
dad
say?
bods.
170,000 for the first one? Is that
Oh,
what
I
you
was
said?
holding up the second, but yeah, the first one was 180. The second one was 275, 280.
270.
So yeah, it was.
No.
I mean, here it's like basically 800 pages, but it should have been 1,000 if they'd kept it the same word count.
It's the same typeset.
Yeah, same typeset, etc. Yeah, if they'd done that, it would have been closer to 1,000 versus the other one, which was like 600. So if it was 1,000 and they cut out 200, it probably would have been okay, but it probably is kind of a dad bod
I don't know,
description.
yeah,
So
no.
that's great.
Yeah. I'm good with that. Dad bod books.
Daria, that's gonna stick. That's definitely gonna stick.
It's done. It's
Dairy's
done.
got it, 100%. Add
Gotta
that to the
write-
list.
I got to write a list.
You should put on a list for before we go.
Oh,
Dad
yeah,
bod
it's-
books you need to put on your TBR.
Yeah,
and
it's
no one
done.
will know except people who saw this.
For
My
those in the
volunteers
know.
figure.
And then the people that pick up the series are going to be like, So there weren't any dads with
Dad
dogs
bods.
in this
There
series.
wasn't any
in this
actual
book.
dads in this
Yeah.
book.
I can
Interesting.
be the feature of the list because I literally feature a dad bod. My main character is a father. He's 42 years old. So there you go. I'm the.
Oh yeah, that's going to be coming out tomorrow.
My third book has a character who could probably qualify. Yeah,
Dad bod.
yeah,
So-
Braun,
so-
yeah,
she-
Braun Gloyer is mentioned in books 1 and 2, and he's in book 3, and he's got like a dad bod.
So
Muscles.
she can list the third one. Do you have a title for the third one yet? So she can list the
Yeah,
third
Master
one.
of the Fallen is book 3, and book 4 is Master and Dark Lord. Sword.
Oh, that's where it happens.
That's where it's at.
We're no longer going down the hill. We're just actually on fire.
You're just you've fallen into the canyon.
Yeah.
Oh,
The fire is no longer external; it's an internal nuclear reactor that annihilates the world itself. Yes, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, book 4 is. I hesitate to say it. Probably going to have a post-apocalyptic feel to it. It'll be interesting.
you must be really excited to get into it. Because did you say you're almost done the third one, or you've handed it off?
No. I'm.
No.
It depends on how you look at it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of what I wrote, I was like, oh, if I keep writing this, I'm not going to finish I'm not going to hit the points that I need to be at. So I need to put some of these into book 4, but I can't do that because then I won't finish the series on time. So then I was like, all right, how do I restructure some of this? So a lot of like what I wrote, like it was like, for example, going back to part 1 and saying, I need part 1 to be parts 1 and 2, ironically. And then I can add more into parts 1 and 2 that I was planning on putting in book 4 or at the end of book 3, but now I got to put it in earlier, so that's good. So like, yeah, how far am I? I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I feel like I'm only a quarter done, but I'm like, I'm probably more than halfway done, but it's hard to judge. That's why.
Yeah. I get what you mean. I had to restart Brick and Bone a few times where it's like, no, I've gone off in the wrong direction. I have to go back. And it's like, so there's a word count, but the word count means absolutely nothing because I know that the plot points aren't hitting at the right spot. So I'm going to like trim some of this. And, yeah, I know what you mean. But you feel like you've got your feet into what the pacing needs to be to get it to where you want it to go.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the corner that suddenly everything begins to fall into place. That's a good feeling.
Yeah, and it's satisfying because I mean, like when I was writing the first draft of the book, it was like it was great. It was fun. It was good. It was feeling like everything else my other books have felt like. But then I got to a certain point, and I was like, "Ooh, this is not. I'm not going to hit the target here. We're going to go way over. This is a problem. We are in trouble again. This is not okay." So I had to look at how to compress and collapse and like cause certain scenes to pull more weight and to carry more and to have certain characters experience certain arcs earlier but still satisfying. And that's something that I don't personally trust many authors to be able to do well when you're dealing with something that's that, especially like the concepts that I have for my series, like that I've been working on for so long. Like I'm like, this is impossible to do, but I can do it because I know this series very well.
I am very clever.
Because I am.
I'm totally nodding along with you because I just did the same thing. Like one character has like a boxing arc where he's learning to become, a pugilist,
That's awesome.
and constantly as I was writing it, I was like, well, I could move the match to the next book, but then I would remember that the cover is going to have those boxing gloves on it. So it's like, no, I have to put the match in the second book or it's like false advertisement at this point. So I had to like, that whole arc could have been an entire book, but he's a secondary character. So I had to like crunch it down into not too many words, but like it had to feel like he was moving through all of this. So yeah, anyway, that's my very long way of saying I know exactly what you're going through.
It's so nice talking to other authors who are equally frustrated with their inability to be as perfect as they imagine themselves.
Yeah.
This is
You
fun.
get
I just
there.
eat popcorn. I just sit here with popcorn.
Yeah. If I can do it, so can you.
Right? Like, I have no doubt that I can do it. It's just like, look, it's going to take a little bit more patience and time, and it's going to take a little bit more nuance. But when I'm done, it's going to be better than the original version that I had planned to write, because I was forced under these restraints, constraints, etc., to make it this way. And you're like, great. I'm writing. I'm a better author, a better series. Everybody's going to be happier for it. It just takes a little bit more time.
Yeah, it takes time, and there's a lot of pressure on publishing quickly, but sometimes it's just not. It's better to let it take the time.
Yeah.
Carl says, "The story needs what the story needs, whether it be 1,000 words or just a couple thousand words,
or a couple 100,000 words, as the case may be."
There's 100 missing there. Otherwise, I don't agree with you,
it's only an extra 12 hours of reading. It's fine. It's fine.
I'm always so astounded when we put out these, many hundreds of thousand words books, and people are able to chew through it in a weekend.
Yeah, I'm astounded at that too.
It is weird. It's like, it's surreal. As an author, you spend years working on this story, these characters, these plots, and reworking them, and you finally present it to the world, and then they consume it and internalize it and understand everything that you put out there within like 2 days, and you're like, it's like you plugged into the Matrix and sucked out all the knowledge from my head that I worked on for 2 years, and now you're the same spot as I am, and it's weird.
I actually read Master of Sorrows in 2 days.
Hustling to get ahead.
I read Master of Sorrows in 2 days.
Yeah.
Derry had a question. Has there been a time where you've needed to cut a scene or scenario from a story completely justifiably that you love so much to use it in a different story?
Yes and no for me, because my stories are all part of the same world. So I cut them, but I also say, this is still canon. It still happened. It still exists. I'm going to continue to write the series as if it were included. And then sometimes I will release those lost chapters, like I released a few on the Grimdark magazine's page. I think Beth actually introduced some of them, or one of them, something. Anyway, so I've got some of those. But then, so I do have lost chapters that I will share with people. And at some point, I'm probably going to stick them together with short stories and standalones and other things that I'm going to release at some point that are part of the canon of my world, so that people can enjoy those without having to go hunt them down. But I have no problem sharing them with people. And yes, they do, or they can turn into their own short stories or novels. But for me, they're all still in the same, thus far, I have not cast it off and then come back and said, I'm going to turn this into a separate story in a separate world, because I'm so invested in my own. I'm like, I'm not going to fall into that trap. No. I'm going to focus on this. What about you, Krystle?
For me, I've cut a lot of words. I wrote a lot of words to get Brick and Bone done, but if I cut it, I have to just let it go, because if I've cut it, it means that it's messed up my arc somehow. Like it does not fit. So some of it has been recycled, where I started trying to write this book many years ago. I guess I pulled one scene out of the first draft that I wrote, that outline draft that was written in 2018, and it had to be completely rewritten, but to fit my new style and timeline. But yeah, if it's cut, I have to let it go, or else it messes me up for the rest of the arc. Excuse me. And some of the arcs I can kind of rework them into being part of the story, but most of it just has to be, I have to let it go. I'm thinking about putting up a Patreon of some of the stuff that I wrote that I really liked, but it doesn't fit anywhere just because like it feels like good words that
So
do
interesting.
nothing.
You
They just
should.
kind of hand
You
me
should.
space.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
should.
Yeah.
the hardest part of this last revision of Brick and Bone was there's so many versions and so many possibilities of the story that exist in my head now that I couldn't always remember what was true anymore. So I had to go back and read what I've been doing quite a lot just
Yeah.
to like, okay, no, I cut that. That's gone. That character doesn't even exist anymore. So that it's definitely something that I want to streamline a lot more because I don't feel like 2 years and 2 million words is sustainable for a career. It hurt me a little, but hopefully I can get it a little bit more organized now that I know kind of what I'm trying to be, and now that I know not to flinch away from the dark stuff.
Yeah. There's a lot of time I think new authors spend on figuring out like who they are, even if they've written a ton before, a ton of stories that were not their main series, or if they're like me, they've been writing the same story for a while trying to get it right. Like until your fan base is reading your books and you know who your fan base is,
Yeah,
and what genre you're
none of that.
actually writing in,
Yeah.
and you're like I had no idea I write slow burns. I had no idea that I wrote that I had elements of horror in my books. Even though I do, I was completely oblivious to a lot of the things that I now know. Like, oh, this is me. This is my style. And there are other things that like some people don't like, but which I do, and I'm okay putting them in. Like prologues. I like prologues, and I like preludes, and I like other things that some people give authors grief for. And I like big books, and I know it's smarter to write shorter stories because
short books that you can release more often.
And you get more money and all those other things. I'm like, that would be smart and great,
but
you don't do that.
But I'm
so
here.
People are just gonna have to like if I were allowed to write
I think
long books, multiple books, and not fit it into a contract, like, man, that would be so nice. Just churn out lots of long books and be like, here you go.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was part of it too, not just learning my story, but also learning who my audience was and who I wanted to be as a writer, because there was so much I didn't know about genre labels when I was trying to launch the first one that I was learning really quickly. But then there's only so much you can anticipate before the book hits the audience. And then people were reading Brightwash and saying certain things about it. I was like, oh, I guess I can see why you think it's dark. And so then it's like I had to like decide which feedbacks I was going to double down on and just inhabit, and which ones I was like, no, you don't like that, but I'm going to stay here.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I think that's part of why it took me so long. But my process is to do that through words and write words, and then see how they make me feel and see how they fit in the story. And I spent a lot of time writing words that didn't fit, and they're all gone. But I learned a lot about myself, so and who I wanted to be. So it's like I said at the beginning, it's tuition, it's cost of entry at this point.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and people again, they don't emphasize that a lot when you're starting out.
The time always flies on these, and it's already over 2 hours. So I want to respect everyone's time. But so Beth, where can people find you if they're looking to connect with you?
You can find me on Twitter at Beth Tabler. You can find me on Grimdark Magazine. I'm the procurement editor, and Before We Go blog. Yeah.
And Krystle, where can people connect with you and find your stuff?
Mostly I say a lot of inappropriate things on Twitter, just at Krystle Matar. I'm also at Before We Go blog, and I owe Beth a bunch of reviews, including a review for His Ragged Company by R.D. Denton, who I think is still in the audience, but maybe he bounced. I have a website, krystlematar.com, that I don't update very often. And that's pretty much it for me.
And Justin,
Also have a website.
where can people find your TBR?
Yeah, my I should probably put that on my website, but that would be
That would be cool, like a thing that you can update. That
Yeah, that would be really cool.
there are
that
so many.
I'm going to steal that idea.
There are so many things that I want to put on my website. Great ideas, like my TBR would be great. I want to put all of the artwork that I've commissioned that's in my books so that people can access them easily.
Mm.
I tuckerize
Maps.
people. Yeah, my maps. Yeah, my magic system. I tuckerize people and stick like if people want to be characters in my book, I have like a Facebook page that's like 5 years old that I always go back to and I pull people's names from, and I have a list that I keep, and then I update it regularly and say, this person who wanted to be in the book, this is who you became, and these are the features of your person, just so you can keep an eye out for them. And then like a year down the road, then they can find themselves in the book. And those are fun things that I should have on my website, but I do not.
That's really smart.
That's cool.
So
Because updating your website takes away time from writing.
precisely. But also paradoxically, doing those things makes you more motivated to write too, but also takes away time from
Yeah.
writing. So anyway,
I hadn't
very
helped
complicated. The
sell
TBR.
books
Yeah.
and-
So
Yeah.
justintcall.com is my website. At some point I'll update it, and then people can get more signed books from me with the UV light messages in them, which I spend like 30 minutes on each of those. Like it's fun, but also takes time away from writing.
You're a fountain pen nerd as well, aren't you?
Oh, I'm a huge
I'm
fountain pen
starting
nerd.
another
I have
chapter.
some strong
Oh
opinions
my
about
God.
inks and pens and nibs and all that
Too.
stuff. But having said that, I want to distract from the time. If you want to get a hold of me, honestly the best way is through Twitter, because I respond to like all of my tags and all of my messages, unless I've opened one and thought that I responded and then didn't, which happens every now and then, because I'm neurodivergent, like my good friend Plothead.
Cool.
So-
Well, thank you to all of you for coming by and chatting with me. And all the links that everyone mentioned are down below in the description. So go check them out and go order some books and add to your TBR. So hope everyone has a fantastic weekend. Thanks for hanging out with us. It's always fun
Thanks
getting
for inviting me.
interaction.
It's fun.
Of course, anytime.
Yeah.
Cool. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye.